We tried to switch the mic.
We switched the mic to the owl, so hopefully they can hear us better now.
Yes, they're good. They're good.
It's a camera / microphone.
Yeah.
It helps give us this panoramic view, and it also follows us around, which is really helpful for folks online. So whenever we talk about the owl,
Yeah, like I'll finish my introduction because I know I left y'all hanging in that space. So I was in your all's place last year, and
Louder, please.
okay.
for the people online or for you guys?
For us.
Okay. Well, we'll switch to this thing then. Okay.
Oh, good.
Okay, is this better?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So, like I said, my name is Matt Gregory. We're getting an echo. Okay, can the people online still hear us? So, yeah, I was in your all's position last year. And is this like distracting me nuts?
I can't.
Okay. So yeah, what my history is, I've been in the kind of Houston, kind of Spring, et cetera, area for the past 20 years. I'm a geologist by background, and kind of during COVID, I started to get a little bit more, kind of interested. I've always been going out kind of to other areas and experiencing nature. And then during COVID, I was like, well, I'll just start to learn more about, nature around me. So I lived near Spring Creek, and I started to hike on the trails there, and then got involved with the Bayou Land Conservancy, and then quickly just kind of went into, the Texas Master Naturalist program. It was a great experience because I consider myself like a lifelong learner. And that's why, I was even interested in getting involved in the training, because I always like, I won't know it all, and I like to learn from people that, know a lot, as well as, you all. I'll learn a lot from you all as well. You may not think you know things about certain aspects of this, but you'll be surprised at how much you may know that even the experts don't know. So always feel free to ask questions and engage, and enjoy the experience. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
My voice is kind of crazy. It doesn't usually sound like this, but I'm getting over something I got the Thursday before last because I have little kids. And I'm always my name is Rebecca Beekman. I was an intern last year, just like Matt. I'm new to the Houston area, so this was a really great way to get to know Houston. I love to be outside. I love to learn about everything outdoors. So I feel like this was a great introduction to this area. It's made me feel a lot more comfortable being here. And I'm not sure if y'all are familiar, but I work at Mercer Botanic Gardens. We have plenty of volunteer opportunities and advanced training opportunities. So I encourage y'all to come out and check it out. Entrance is free because we're a county park. But I would say that my experience at the Master Naturalist also kind of put me in that position because I was volunteering there constantly. And, one thing led to another, now I'm working there. So you never know what will happen after your, year as a Master Naturalist. Before that, I worked in government, which is not nearly as fun. So yes, I loved my experience last year, and it's definitely changed my life. So we're gonna get started with our orientation. If you have any questions, raise your hand throughout or chat if you're online with us, and we will help you along. This is just supposed to be a brief overview. If you have questions from now to the end of class about any of this basic stuff, this is like the foundational stuff where how you fill out your volunteer hours, etc. Don't be afraid to ask us, to ask our mentors, or to ask the training committee. And on that note, I do want to point out the training committee. They're in the back. Can you guys wave or raise your hands? So those are our training committee members. They'll be here some of the days. And I think we have a few mentors in here. If you're a mentor, can you raise your hand? We got 1, 2, 3. So some of y'all may have met them last time. Hopefully you have your mentor's number or email address. If you don't, let us know and we'll make sure that you get connected with them because they're going to be your first line of communication. Any questions you have, they should know the answer. But again, like I said, don't be afraid to reach out to us. We're here as a resource. I should be here pretty much every class. Matt will be here a lot of the classes as well, and you'll get to know some of our other training committee members as we get through this next couple months. Hopefully it will be really fun. I loved it last year, so much that now I'm very good. So if we want to get started with the PowerPoint. Okay, welcome to our members in training, like we said. Do you want to just move forward and we'll show the video? I should have it up in the Chrome link. So this, we couldn't figure out the audio in here. We'll be at different places throughout. This is actually one of our better audio video setups, but we're new to it. So this is a message from a fellow Texas Master Naturalist. Can you full screen?
If anything, you'll be entertained by our like crappy tech.
Technical. Yeah, it's kind of like a modern Three Stooges situation up here.
Happens on the screen, but not up there.
Yeah, the video isn't coming through on the screen.
You have to check like that you were screen sharing, check it or something.
Make sure, yeah, make
Is
sure.
that overriding?
I'm so sorry, guys. We might end up just skipping this one.
Come back to it later.
Okay, our agenda for today, and can you remove the pinned faces? We're gonna go over the orientation, we're gonna talk about the historic naturalists of Texas, and then we're gonna review recording your hours, which is very important and exciting. Can you do the next one? Okay, so the executive board of the Heartwood chapter of Texas Master Naturalists. There are chapters of Texas Master Naturalists all over the state. Perhaps you've worked with some. You can't hear me? Okay. Okay, can you hear me now? Oh gosh, I can hear my voice. Okay, so there are chapters all over the state, which is cool in case you plan to move eventually. I know the people who used to teach this class are in Central Texas now, and they're probably involved with one of the Central Texas chapters. Our region here is called Heartwood. Our executive structure looks like this. So we have a president, a vice president, a secretary, a treasurer. We also have some directors that I'll show in a minute. We are very lucky today. Our president is here, or was here. Of course, she walked out of the room right before I said that. Okay, so back there, just walking in, that is Sharon Newsom. She's our president of the Heartwood chapter. We also have our vice president is Gerald Geisler. He was just nominated last year to this position. You may be familiar with him if you have done the bat chats up in Huntsville. He's very active with the bats in that area. Our secretary is Adrienne Paquette. She also works at Cleb Woods, I think, and she runs the Junior Master Naturalist program in this area. She's an amazing environmental educator. Andre Hauser, I have not had the privilege to get to know. He's our treasurer. As you know, your funds come in for this class. Every member continues to pay dues every year. And so we keep track of our finances as any nonprofit will. And we try to use them for things that will, continue to spread our mission. And our directors, so we have a lot of different wings, basically. We have advanced training, which is where our current naturalists and interns will advance their education through different programs in the community. So Jaden Kelly is our director there. We have a communications director, membership director, outreach director. Oh, we need a volunteer. I don't know if you guys will be eligible for that, but if that's something you might be interested in after June and it's still not filled, please consider it. Outreach means going to events around the area, tabling, spreading the word about being a master naturalist. Programming is Gerald again. The training class director is Shelley McCoy. Shelley, do you want to raise your hand?
I'm not the director, I'm just a member of the team, you just see me first.
Yes. She has helped us a lot. She has definitely been one of our most involved members of our training committee. Training class representative, we'll talk about that in a minute. And then volunteer service projects is Kay Browse, who is, I don't think she's here, at least not yet, but hopefully we'll be able to introduce you to her because you'll probably be interacting with her for your volunteer service. So really quickly, can you all still hear me? Does my voice make sense? Okay. The training class representative. Each year, one of our training class members becomes the representative. The representative attends chapter meetings and just represents the class. Maybe you guys have a question or a concern that you want to bring up to the executive board or the directors, the other directors. Maybe if you just want to be able to bring information back to the class from those meetings. So last year, what we did is we had a member who was already excited to go to those chapter meetings, and she pretty much volunteered the first day, I think, and became our class representative. So that's something I want you guys to think about today. Hopefully by the end of next class, we will have been able to pick someone from your class to be that representative if you have time to attend chapter meetings. They're once a month.
Why not?
They're once a month. I think they're the second Wednesday. Yeah, second Wednesday. They are not on Zoom. They are just in person, but usually. Oh, they are on Zoom? Oh, and the representative can attend by Zoom, right? Perfect. So very easy. Yes, the second Wednesday of the month, and I think this next one is on Valentine's Day. It's very romantic. So consider that if you want to be more involved and you want to help be that leader for the class. Okay. I don't know how many of you guys have had a chance to look at your manual yet, but you will learn a lot about this over the next few months. Your hours. So in order to become a certified Texas Master Naturalist, here are your goals. You need to get 40 hours of initial training. That means attending these Saturday and sometimes weekday Zoom classes. I think all the weekday ones are Zoom, but attending these classes on Saturdays, up to 40 hours. I think we may have more than 40 hours of 58. So we have 58 available training hours this year. So if you miss a few, it's not a big deal. And then you can also catch them online, but they don't count for that initial training. But they are recorded and put online if you want to go and catch up. On YouTube, yeah. Volunteer hours. So, okay, so that's just your graduation. And at the end of the program, which is in June, you will get a polo, a lanyard, a certificate, and a name badge. So I'm not wearing my polo, but everybody else's, mine's gigantic.
Your men's sizes.
We didn't get the memo, I guess. And then your lanyard, that is this green thing. Certificate, which is just a piece of paper you can, put on your wall. And then a name badge. This is the name badge. And then next, most exciting, is once you get your volunteer hours in advanced training, you get a dragonfly pen. I've got mine here. This means that you are official. 40 hours of training seems like, our volunteer hours seems like a lot, but you get to spend all year working on these hours. So you have until the end of December to get these hours. Our website online shows a calendar that is full of volunteer opportunities almost every day of the week. And if you can't find one that fits your schedule, reach out to us or check out our, there's some ongoing volunteer projects. There's a link for that. And they're kind of do it at your own pace type projects. So it shouldn't be too hard for you to get those hours. I know that mine flew by once I found an area that I loved. You also need 8 advanced training hours. Again, our calendar shows those advanced training hours. We will bring them up throughout the year as well, just to let you know when you can go and do those. Many of those are available online too, so if you're very busy, you can go onto the Texas Master Naturalist YouTube, the statewide one, and they offer like every Tuesday, I think they do an advanced training opportunity. You're saying no?
It's not every Tuesday.
Oh, yeah,
It's the second.
the second Tuesday, yeah. It's called TMN Tuesdays. So we'll keep you posted about that. Read the newsletter and then we'll check in with you guys about those opportunities, but there are also plenty in the area, so don't hesitate to get out into the community, meet people, and learn through those advanced training opportunities. And then to recertify, so this is something that many of us tried for last year but did not quite make it. If you recertify, so if you get another 40 hours of volunteer time, another 8 hours of advanced training, you get this year's unique pen. So last year it was, did you get it?
The regions of Texas.
Yeah, it was the eco regions. Did you get it?
Well, I should have, but they sent me the wrong one.
Okay, so Virginia and Shelley have it.
I did it
It's,
last year, up 80 hours, so if I can do it as a 70 plus, you can do it. I don't know. You're pretty amazing. She's pretty amazing.
she is a bit. Did you have a question?
Yes, do we have to do volunteer hours that are in this area?
Yes, good question. So for the most part, yes. Occasionally we'll make an exception for something outside of the area. Do you want to elaborate on that? Yeah.
Yes, pretty much you have to do a volunteer project that's listed on our calendar or has been advertised in our bulletin, which is a weekly production that comes out on Mondays. So you want to check both of those things for the projects that are available and
That's by
post
email.
Basically, they are Montgomery County and Walker County. Occasionally, there's something outside of that, but it should be listed there. So for the most part, to be safe, please stick with those items that are published in our calendar. You can suggest a new one, but at this point, I would try to stick with those and then you're good to go. There should be ample opportunities to get the hours that you need.
And there's some in northern Harris County, right?
Yes, yes, exactly, yes.
Like Mercer.
I just have a place already that I'm doing a bunch of hours in Fort Bend County, and it would just be nice if I could sneak and build those hours.
It would be
somewhere.
nice, it would be nice, but we basically stick in our own lane, you know, and then Fort Bend County has their own master naturalist program probably, I'm not sure.
Yeah, they do.
Who that would be, so, you can't do hours for more than one master naturalist group.
Gotcha.
You see what I mean? So,
Yeah,
yeah, we just try to stay in our own, because that makes us more cohesive and more knowledgeable about our area. That's the idea.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and a lot of it is it like sticks to the program like meeting, right? So the idea is that there are all of these different regional chapters so that we are helping out our community here, the one that surrounds us. That way we just get the best coverage across the state. But yeah, and Melissa will be here later to talk about our volunteer hours, and she might be a person to check in with about what you're doing to see, you know, if it works or if there's something similar that you could do in this area, if it's a type of project that you're really dedicated to. Okay, and so this year's unique pen is a rattlesnake. I don't have a picture of it. I looked everywhere. As soon as I have a picture of it, I'll show you guys. I'm very excited about it. I'm really hoping to get it this year. So yeah, if you double certify, then you get 2 pens. I only have one because I'm not as cool as Shelley in Virginia.
I'm cool.
Okay, finding volunteer and advanced training opportunities. We kind of talked about this, but here are the best ways to find them. The website calendar, they're consistently updating, so check that out. The bulletin that we send out, if you're not getting the Heartwood bulletin once a week, check in with us so that we can make sure we have your email address entered correctly. And then also check your spam folder because, you know, sometimes it won't get through. Chapter meetings are a great place to learn about new opportunities. We often will have a speaker present in the beginning and they'll present about their opportunity at their, you know, place where they work or a place where they're volunteering. So yeah, that's a great place to learn. Slack. So I'll show you how to get on our Slack account in just a minute. But we have Slack pages for many of our different organizations. where we offer volunteer and advanced training. And if that person is active, if the person who works in that area is active, you will see a lot of those opportunities. And it's a great place to like meet and chat about like, hey, are you guys gonna go to this area this weekend or Thursday? And then you guys can meet up and go do things together, which is really fun. Okay, becoming part of the chapter. So a big part of this is community. I made a lot of friends last year in the program. I know these folks have all made a lot of friends, whether they were in the class or whether they were in their volunteer area or their advanced training. So here are some ways to become part of the chapter. Okay. Also entering your hours. So this is where to report your hours. There's the DMS reporting system, and we'll talk about that more later. This is what I was talking about, Slack. So raise your hand if you're not familiar with Slack. Okay. So Slack is a chat program, basically. It's an app that you can download. Maybe you can use it on your computer, but this is the easiest way that I found to use it. You download this app called Slack. We have an account that's just for Heartwood. So if you visit heartwoodchapter.slack.com, you should be able to find our chapter. And then this is what the screen looks like. When you want to find, let me just show you. So see these all on the left, 2023 class. I made one for you guys, 2024 class, please join. Birding, Dennis Johnson Park, DEI, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, Friends of Texas Wildlife, General, Adopt a Loop, Huntsville Bat Team, Huntsville Bats. These are the different channels that Slack has. So it's a group where you can go in and talk about that specific program or for general, you can talk about whatever you want. So you can join these by clicking the plus button on channels once you're in the Heartwood page. And then I just went to, when I did it at first, I just went to browse channels, and it should show you all of the channels that are available. So the first one, or the second one maybe is 2024 class. Add that one so you guys can all talk. And see, and then feel free to add as many others as you're interested in. Not all of them are like super active, but maybe you can make them more active. We used it last year also for our final projects, which you guys will talk about or we'll talk about soon. But we made final project channels so that everybody could coordinate when they were going to get together and work on their final project. Yes.
So can anybody join Slack or a group?
We have to let them in. So not anybody can join. And the groups that are created in Heartwood, I think that we have to approve them.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, and then we also keep an eye on who's in them, because I know someone joined one of my groups last year who like wasn't in the intern class, and the person running the training last year was like, do you know this guy? And I was like, I don't think so, but I don't care, if he wants to learn about bats, he can be in my group. Okay, so we also have a member directory online. Okay. Go back to the member directory one. So to become a part of the member directory, do you guys know who we submit our photos to?
Me? Are you asking that?
Yes, do you want to give an overview of the member directory? I'm not as familiar with that.
Okay, so the member directory is actually password protected. So if you're a little reluctant to put your face picture elsewhere, don't worry about it here, because you have to be able to get into the site to see those pictures. But it's a great way when you say, okay, like Susan Beckmeyer happens to be the second person there. Who is Susan Beckmeyer? And so it's a nice way to be able to look at our directory and see pictures of those people whose names you know, but whose face you don't know. So if you will, and I'll tell you just a minute how, but if you will send me a picture, and as you look at these, it's nice that it's a facial picture. I don't want a picture of you in your backyard where you look like a little pinpoint, but a picture so that someone can readily identify you from your picture. And it doesn't have to be a portrait, certainly, but just a picture of you. And send it to me, and I'll get it on that directory.
Now, if you look in your, I think I noticed in your old book, if you look in your booklet on page. Okay, the back, almost the back page, if you're coming to page, part of the chapter. It sends a picture to Heartwood. Actually, change that to Heartwood Web. Heartwood Web. At gmail.com for our direct. Protected page. The password is, here's the password.
You want to tell them now or what's going to be numbers?
The what?
You want to tell them now or what's going to be numbers?
No, they do. Well, we'll put it on now. Okay, so password is capital H, Heartwood. HEARTWOOD. Rocks, capital ROCKS. Exclamation point. And so if you go into that if you, first of all, if you have to get into it on the main menu of the Heartwood chapter, it says current members. And underneath there, it says password protected or something like that. So it's that site that you go to, and then you enter your password, and you have a choice then of looking at some records or looking at the directory, and you choose the record, and that's what it means. So that's the method by which you get to this page. But the password to get into it is that, and if you'll send me your picture, I'll put it on.
So and the website is heartwoodweb@gmail.
That's my, to send
That's where we
it,
submit the
send
picture.
it to me.
At
So I'm gonna-
heartwoodweb@gmail.
at Gmail, right.
Can I add one thing about the picture? Try not to, don't be wearing a hat or sunglasses if you can remember that, because that helps, just kind of, like, just with the sunglasses, you're like, who is that really? So try, no hats or sunglasses if you can't remember that. That's helpful.
What if they think
Well, you can wear them any other time. I guess you put two pictures with.
And can someone write the email address and password in the chat? Okay, thank you for checking. Okay, so the member directory, yeah, definitely do that. It's a good way to just meet and greet other people, with other people in the chapter. Okay, this is exciting. The Master Naturalist has its own license plate. If you go to, I don't know what Texas, it's probably in your manual.
The state website has it.
Yeah, so you can go through and, I mean, everybody has a license plate right now. You can get a national parks one, a rivers one. This is our beautiful license plate. You'll notice, as you come to these classes, many of the cars in the parking lot will have these. We definitely recommend it. As a way to support Master Naturalists, get the word out as well. We also have a store with a bunch of cool clothes. So we are supposed to wear our Master Naturalist shirts, or at least your name badge, whenever you go out into the public as a Master Naturalist, especially if you're tabling, if you're volunteering or going to advanced training. It's a really great way to identify other Master Naturalists too. And then, of course, if people see you wearing it, you can tell them about being a Master Naturalist. So it's wonderful for outreach. They're also just really comfortable. This is on our website, which is also in your, it should be in your manual for where to find these clothes. Don't wait until the end of class if you want to start, showing your Texas Master Naturalist pride. Go ahead and buy those whenever you like. We will send out emails from time to time with links to clothing. I know last year there was like a big sale, and so a lot of people got a bunch of shirts during that sale. We also have an annual meeting. It's very popular. It's like so popular that you have to buy your tickets like very early on in order to get into it. Last year it was in McAllen. I know some of our folks from the training committee went. It's like a whole weekend of nature nerds, basically talking about everything we love from around the state. You get to hang out and learn all day, and then you get to like go have dinner with everyone and keep talking about it, and then, you know, all this stuff that happens. This next year, or this year is gonna be awesome because it's in San Marcos. I talked about working for government, I used to work for the city of San Marcos, so I'm like really proud of this. But yeah, so it will be in San Marcos. The dates are already announced. Once an email goes out, with more information about this or with tickets, if you're interested in going, I recommend getting the tickets as soon as possible and booking a room as soon as possible, because it does get, like I said, it sells out quick. But everybody loves it. I didn't get to go last year because I was working, but, hopefully this year I can. Okay, and now I want to introduce Gwen, who is going to tell us about historic naturalists in Texas.
Oh, okay, I was at the wrong thing.
Okay. All right, my name is Gwen Lanning. I have been a Heartwood member for, I think this is my 14th year, so I have a lot of pins. And I'm gonna talk about like how we got to now, where we are in Texas as far as nature. One of the projects I work with is we also present this class at the Ellis unit of Huntsville State Prison. And I'm used to talking to those guys. So you all may know more about me, more than me, about any topic I talk about. So I hope to give you an overview. This one is gonna be, like I said, how we got to now in Texas nature, and then we'll have a little break, and then I'm going to do the land ethic and what the overarching goals of the Master Naturalist program are. So we've all had that moment in nature that we got to see something really cool. This is one of mine where I went to Smith Oaks, where the birds roost, and you can see the egrets and the roseate spoonbills. If you haven't been there, it's on like an island, and you're across the waterway in some visitor stands. And when I was there, one of the roseate spoonbills just flew over to our side and stood there and looked at us, and so I got to see it really close. And that's a moment that has stuck with me. And as I talk to different people, you know, everybody's got these moments. I've heard in different intern classes, there was a lady who remembered helping some ducks cross a 7-Eleven parking lot in August. And, you know, the guys at Ellis unit, I have a picture of a box turtle, and he said, well, those bite you if you try to kiss them when you're 8 years old. Everybody's got their story. But we want to know, you know, who were the first people to come and experience Texas and write about it? And I am uniquely qualified to present this because I used to work at George Ranch Historical Park. So I lived in the 1830s for about 4 years. So,
Is that you?
that was me, yeah. That was 20 years ago, I guess. And of course, this is kind of what it looked like before the Europeans got here. The book, we're not going to talk about what the Native Americans, how they experience nature. Your chapter 2 in your manual is really good about all the different areas of Texas and the different cultural groups that were there. And also, the state of Texas online, they have like this coloring book. I mean, a lot of times when I have to learn something, I go to the kids version first, and that's really helpful too. But these are some of the wild plants that they would have made use of: the Mustang grapes, the common persimmons, and the prickly pear. And just in case you are not up on your 4th grade Texas history, these are some of the years that we had different governments taking over Texas, and the political frontier always caused scientific exploration. People always wanted to know, what did they have? What could they use? When I was started as a master naturalist, our book had literally 95 pages of the different naturalists that they thought were important to Texas. and on every page, there were dozens. Your book focuses more on about 30 of them, and they picked ones that they feel like contribute to the way we look at science and nature in Texas now. When the Spaniards got here, they really weren't concerned with the nature. They wanted more they were always looking for those 7 cities of gold. And they would just complain that, you know, the Llano Estacado was so vast and so plain, you couldn't tell where you were going. But they did run all these different expeditions. I went to the conference, the state conference 2 years ago, and I was able to pick up this book for free about all the times that people explored what's now the Old Spanish Trail, the Camino Real. So they would all come, I mean, you can see all the years these different people came, but they tended to leave notes like this, like, okay, on the 15th, I was at San Isidro, I traveled 5 leagues, there were trees, there were live oaks, it was the Rio Hondo. They would just kind of talk about a landmark and some of the plants that were there. They weren't really looking to study nature. And then we had in 1700, the Comanches the Native Americans were always being moved in because of pressure further east and from the north. They would pressure the existing groups that were here. So there was always a lot of turmoil. And we had a Mexican Boundary Commission in 1820. So just to, again, bring you back into that time. When I used to work at George Ranch, there were people who didn't know that there was a time that there wasn't electric power everywhere. When I would weave, people would say, oh, she's making candles. So I like to just jump back a little, and this is a map from 1816, and you can see that it is not very realistic. They have these mountains in East Texas. So we're going to start in 1827 with one of the first explorers. I'm just going to focus on a couple of different ones. And again, to orient you, Napoleon had died. Alabama was the most recent, the 22nd state. Beethoven was writing symphonies. The Erie Canal had opened. John Quincy Adams was the president. And fine ladies would walk around Philadelphia looking like this. This is the Erie Canal. And a little science background where we were with technology. The first commercially viable steamboat had gone up in 1807, but by the 1830s, you had about 1,200 steamboats every year going up and down the Mississippi. So the explorers that we're going to talk about got to Texas partially by steamboat. But as far as trains, this was where we were with trains. Robert Stevenson's rocket had just won a locomotive contest in 1829, and they had like a circular track. People would go to it like entertainment. Look at this cool thing. It wasn't like they didn't visualize where it would go for transportation. And in 1830, the Baltimore and Ohio had 13 miles of track, but they were still using horse-drawn carts. So we didn't have any trains in Texas yet. And they didn't have the germ theory of disease yet. So they had big cholera outbreaks. And this was an artist's rendition of a big skeleton in a shroud coming after people and wiping them out. So if you think about this, was a very, a lot of turmoil in the world with all these empires changing hands, big territories changing hands, but governments and universities wanted to study. And so they would try to, on every expedition, arrange for somebody like that to go along, some nature nerd, like somebody said. And it's hard for us to understand, but plants were everything. Every food, transportation, medicine, clothing, all came from natural materials. Plants, animals, minerals. They didn't have chemistry really yet. So it made, for them, the study of plants was really important. I think we tend to think like, oh, an expedition's going to the rainforest. Isn't that nice? They might find a new species. But for these people, it was really a resource that they depended on. And so they had their permanent collections. These are some of the collections that are still in place at different universities. And when I started studying about this, I thought, well, you know, why don't you just use a photograph now? You don't need the storage of all this stuff. But the actual physical specimens can show us something. These, the ones on the left, are from about 1906, 1916, and these are from 2006. So we think of our world as more polluted, but by these physical specimens, we can see that 100 years ago, there was more pollution in the air because of all the coal-fired plants. So it affected the birds. This is another one that shows all the different species and how the physical specimens teach us this. And now, of course, we can also get DNA and learn a lot from that, from the physical specimens. So the logistics for these nature guides, as they were planning their expedition, you really need basic equipment. One of them that we're going to talk about, Thomas Drummond, found that his vasculum, where he stored his dried species, he could shake that, and that was the best way to chase a bear off. There it is. So this is some of the equipment that they would have needed. And again, it's hard for us with our little, you know, our lunch meat comes in a free Tupperware container. And we have our Ziploc bags and our phone books that we just want to get rid of instead of using. But they had to have all of this. This is an actual sample bottle from one of the guys we're going to talk about, Berlandier. So this is cochineal bugs, which are still used for red dye, a natural red dye. He had to carry around glass jars like that. We have all this nice, well, now we have our Naturalist, where you put your picture in your phone and some expert or some artificial intelligence tells you, oh, that is an eastern bluebird. But we have these colored guidebooks. Their guidebooks look like that. They might have 10 color plates for 500 pages of information that was mostly in Latin. So they had to go to school first and learn all of that. And then when they were out exploring, they had to remember it. And in looking at an environment like this and looking at these very similar plants, they had to know what families those plants might be. Did I pick up this specimen yesterday? Is this new? Are these different? So they had to have an incredible amount of knowledge in their heads. Then they would dry the specimens and press them. And again, once you're traveling by wagon, you have these transportation problems. Also, they didn't know Texas, so when they picked a place to camp, it might look like a really good place. And then you could wake up and it looks like this the next day. And then for animals that are wary of man or are nocturnal, they might not see them at all. So for proof of those, they would have to rely on scat and bones and have it, the nest. This is turtle eggs that I found after somebody had eaten the egg part. Tracks. Lots of poop. This one's got bones in it. That one's got a lot of hair in it. This one was really interesting. This one is all just full of beetle bodies. And online, the only thing I found, one person believed that it's a skunk that does that, that they dig up nests of beetles. But kind of things that a lot of still aren't really known that well. These are some of the animals that they might have seen. I Photoshop a little bit. All right, so now we're gonna talk about a few of the individuals. And I hope you find one that you're interested in, or from your book, you find another one. Because when you start looking into their lives, the book's pretty dry about how it writes about these people. But when you start looking into their lives, they really had some incredible stories. So our first one is Jean-Louis Berlandier, and he fit a pattern that a lot of these guys fit, in that they were educated maybe in Europe or back east. They kind of they were unattached. Sometimes they didn't really fit in to society very well. So an expedition would come up and the people around them would say, you know, well, you ought to go to Texas. So he came. When he came here, Texas was still part of Mexico, and he came for it was the Mexican government was running the study, but they ran out of money, and he had to just hang out for a year in Tampico while they got the money. So he did drawings and he studied all kinds of things. So the person who had sent him was de Candolle from Switzerland. And Berlandier collected about 55,000 dried plant species, specimens. They came from Mexico and they got as far as Navasota, essentially, before he got sick with malaria. And their solution was, well, go back to San Antonio. Like, I'm sick with malaria. Like, I don't know. So he sent back 55,000 specimens. And Candolle said, okay, that's 2,351 plants, but that's not enough. We're not getting our money's worth from this guy in Texas with the malaria. And so he heard that and he just stayed in Texas the rest of his life. And he went down and lived down by Matamoros, and he was a doctor, and he married a local woman. And he ended up dying crossing a flooded river. So at that time, his wife didn't know what to do with his collection, and an army officer bought it. And the army officer, his last name was Couch. So if you're a birder, it's the same guy that Couch's kingbird was named for. He was also, Couch was also a terrible racist. So people are trying to get the name of the kingbird changed so we don't have people names with bird names anymore. But he got this collection and he sold it to the Smithsonian. And Berlandier was kind of unique in that he realized that the Indian ways of life were changing, and he gathered a lot of their artifacts and sketched them. And there's some of his drawings are available online, but most of it is still not digitized. But he gathered information in all of these different areas: birds, botany, fishes, invertebrates. Some of these I had never heard of before. Cyanometrical. So that's like, what color is the sky today? So you can tell when he's doing this in the 1820s, from our point of view, that's very important information. What was it like 200 years ago here? These are some of the plants. These are that he collected and that are named for him. This one of the projects I did, you were asking about, there's a lot of online projects that you can do that Master Naturalist sets up. And one of them that I did was reading the labels from specimens for the Botanical Research Institute of Texas. And so you can still see all these specimens. And what they had us do was just type it up so that it's gonna be searchable instead of reading the handwritten labels. But, so one of the things we had to do was put the collector's name and where it was collected. So Berlandier, this sample said, well, it was collected between Laredo and Bayard. I could find that today, you know, like, that's just hundreds of miles. The Rio Grande leopard frog is named for him. And the Texas tortoise. So then moving on now, the Texas moves into being a republic and then a state. And we have this Mexican-American Boundary Commission going in 1849. The map is changing, and this map shows the different areas that were assigned to the different impresarios. And so they didn't, like with Stephen F. Austin and some of the people, they didn't just give the land to them. They gave them oversight and they were allowed to settle people there. And they were gonna be paid back in land of their own if the settlers came in and claimed the land. And of course, in Texas, everybody promised that they would learn to speak Spanish, they would be Catholic, they would be loyal to Mexico, and they wouldn't have slaves. And they broke every single one of those promises just as fast as they could. So this is what Austin looked like. So the next guy we're going to talk about is Thomas Drummond. I have him a little bit, I've got my slides a little out of order. He was from a family of naturalists and botanists for like 5 generations. He was a really interesting guy. He had spent 2 years up in Canada through the winter on his own. But when he got here, the Brazos, there was just so much flooding that year that they were going up the Brazos way further than they would have been able to normally. And he had left his specimens in a boarding house. He was really worried that they would have been flooded. I think they were okay. No, 1/3 were okay, yeah. And then they also had cholera. So cholera struck so fast, he was in a group of about 10 people in this little village, and there was the captain of the boat and then 4 little houses full of people. And some people just died like overnight. And he got it. He said he dosed himself with opium, so he lived. So I don't know how that worked. But these are the Drummonds I mean. And then Charles Wright is a guy that also fit this pattern where he was educated back east, and he came and he taught in a college in Rudersville, which probably looks the same now as it did back then. And I don't know, they called it a college, but of course it was education only for boys. And periodically, somebody, an Army guy would come get them to help take off of school for a few days and go out and chase Indians. So I don't really know how much of an education they got. But he got a place on an expedition, and this is with Asa Gray of Harvard, who was very responsible. He was back in the East, but he was sponsoring these people to go out and collect specimens. So this was his life. This is his life in the library and all nice and neat. And he gets Charles Wright this place on the expedition, but the military was only going to transport his trunk and his drying papers for his specimens. They said nothing about food for him. That's what it looked like, Guadalupe, San Antonio. These are the kind of camps they would have set up. The kind of land he would have gone through. So his letters to Asa Gray, we have all his letters. And of course, he didn't know which letter was gonna actually make it back to Asa Gray. So there's multiple letters of him saying, no one will let me eat with them. The officers say, well, we'd like to help you, but then we have to help anyone who comes along. And the enlisted men are like, we don't have enough for ourselves. And of course, there was like really nowhere to buy food. So he had found the doctor on the trip said, okay, well, you can share my food if you do all the cooking. And then the doctor complained about everything he cooked. So it's just so, fun to read their letters. Yeah, I like this. I have money in my pocket, but it does me no good. It, like, everybody just wants me at the bottom of the sea. The military guys are like, our life would be so much easier if we weren't loading your trunks and all this paper and unloading it so you can dry the plants. What he really wanted was his own little wagon and mules so that he could go by himself and collect at his own pace, but that didn't happen. But this is what's named for him, the goldenrod and the Tixie. Now, some of these guys did not fit this pattern of being educated back east. They were more independent. We would say maybe more of a gig economy worker in our time. And these were different ones that came. Belfrage, his total estate at death was $441. $360 worth of that was his insect collection. So, and then Highland wrote, these are his collections that are still with us. Gideon Lincecum was someone who had come out, and he also studied the Indians and the medicinal uses of plants. And then Lindheimer was someone who came from Germany, and he was educated. He got here because they wanted to start sort of a utopia. And he, again, collected for Asa Gray, the guy back at Harvard. So it's really interesting what he did. He had, they got subscribers. He got so many plant specimens and sent them to George Engelman, who was in St. Louis. And then they would send a set out to all the subscribers. So he had enough for there's at least 1,800 complete sets still out there. And, but he had a little mishap in that Romer, who was a geologist who came to Texas, came and met with Lindheimer, and they were both nature nerds. They both collected. So they swapped specimen collections. Romer took his back to Germany, gave it to a pastor to look through it. The pastor realized that there were about 60 plants that had not been identified yet, and he published that. And Asa Gray was like, wait a minute, I had first rights of publication. You should not have done that. But Asa Gray didn't end up, he was too busy and didn't publish half of his anyway. They didn't get published till 1908 anyway. So, and that's how he traveled. He had the wagon. He would just go out with his dogs for a couple of months. So we have the Opuntia named for him. So now 1891, now we have these railroad lines crossing Texas. And this is Mary Sophie. She's not in your manual, but she was in mine. And I spent a lot of time in West Texas, so she was really a hero of mine. It was 1914. She taught at the University of Texas. She wanted to go out to West Texas and collect, but she was a woman. She couldn't go by herself. So another professor said, well, I've got my 19-year-old brother, Kerry, who's kind of in trouble. He needs to study and get his act together. So he can go with you on this trip. He'll sit in the camp and study math while you go out and collect. So by this time, also, she didn't know how to harness mules or anything. People didn't do that anymore. So she went to Marfa. They bought some really young, untrained burros. That's what the courthouse is in Marfa. Looked the same when she was there. That's the view. That's where she was collecting. She would just walk these trails every day and find wherever they had camped, like in little abandoned ranches and stuff. And this is one of her specimens. And she kept a diary, and of course she didn't know it was going to be published. And she died when she was 42 of cancer. So that boy, Kerry Tharp, his brother, Benjamin Tharp, the professor, in the 60s published the diary. So like 50 years after Mary Sophie Young had died, they went ahead and published the whole diary. And she was pretty funny. So back now to another woman naturalist. These are by 1886, all the birds were being killed so that women could wear a pretty hat, because, you know, there's nothing a guy likes better than a woman with a dead bird on her head. So they would go to these rookeries and they didn't even think, well, okay, we'll wait for the feathers to fall, or we'll wait till nesting season is over and then we'll kill some birds. They just killed them all, whatever they could, and a lot of birds were really being decimated. So this is Florence Miriam Bailey, and she was one of the first ones to write. Her book is credited as being the first guide meant toward the lay person. You didn't have to know Latin, you didn't have to remember it. You had to look at your bird and go, well, is it bright or dull? Is it red or yellow? And you could kind of key it out and see what it was. And she told people, at that time, even ornithologists would just shoot the birds and study the bodies. And she called her book Birding with Opera Glasses, because she would just go out and watch the birds. And at that time, at Christmas, people would go out and see how many birds they could shoot. And she was like, well, let's just look at the birds at Christmas. So she was, she married Vernon Bailey, who's a big scientist in Texas, and they camped every spring and summer and fall in different areas and studied. And she was really a conservationist. The earlier guys that I talked about, like Berlanier and Wright, I don't know what their attitudes were about conservation. They might have thought, here's a resource, let's just use every drop of it. I don't know. But by this time, people were really realizing nature is not going to last forever and we need to conserve. So she really stepped into that field. So looking back at the birds one more time. One of my favorite books from early Texas is just called The Visit to Texas from 1835, I think. And to this day, they don't know who wrote it. The person who wrote it bought land back east. They were told, pay your money, go to Texas. You can just pick out whatever land you want. So of course it was a huge scam, and he didn't realize that till he got here. And so he went around the boat. He was on a boat and it followed the coastline, and they would get off and do stuff, and then they could kind of catch up to the boat, get back on. They went horseback riding. They tried to ride Mustangs. He and his friends thought, well, there's too much cane here, so let's start a little prairie fire so we can see where we're going. That got out of hand, and they were hoping no one ever found out. But one couple of nights he was camping down in Galveston, And he was camping with some other people and he thought, well, I'll be helpful. I will take my gun and go catch breakfast. I saw some birds over there. I'll go shoot some for breakfast. And so you have to remember also at this time, a gun was a muzzle loader and it took you 30 seconds to reload. So you had one shot. So when he went, I took the old man's gun, which was very long, and walked around to the opposite side of the land. There I was astonished to find a multitude of fowl roosting on the shrubbery, so thickly standing side by side that it seemed almost like a bank of snow. After observing them for a time, I discharged my heavy loaded gun, thinking I might easily secure an abundant breakfast for our little party. But the confusion with which I surrounded myself dismayed me. Hundreds, indeed I think thousands of birds instantly flew up with such a fluttering and screaming and yelling that no scene of noise and hubbub I ever witnessed could be compared with it. After I had recovered from the first stunning caused by their unspeakable din, I began to leave the spot and then came back the next morning. Wherever I went and on whatever side I looked, every bush and almost every twig seemed to be occupied by feathered tenants. We found the birds multiplied beyond anything I had ever imagined. Their nests were placed so near as to almost touch each other. The ground was half covered with eggs that had fallen out, and the chattering everywhere was deafening. So when I went here and saw these birds, I thought this was a lot of birds, but that's not what used to be here. We've all lost that and we don't know because we're used to what we see around us in our own time. And if it wasn't for these naturalists of the past, we wouldn't know things like this. We wouldn't know how it used to be. And then in my next talk on the land ethic, we're gonna see why, other reasons why it's important that these guys were here. So, I'll use my little clicker. These are some of the books that I love, that I've read. If you're interested in this topic, these are my sources, more sources, more sources, more sources. That's all. Okay, does anybody have a question?
What was the name of the last book you read an excerpt from?
Oh, it's called The Visit. It's on, let's see if I have it. It's online. Do you know about archive.org? Okay, it's the Internet Archive and it has all kinds, any book in the public domain is on there, scanned by a university. You can look at these fabulous old botanical things, bird things. So let's see if A Visit to Texas, the Journal of a Traveler. Okay, William Hooker and Fisk. They think maybe Fisk was the author, I think. So if you go to archive.org and look for A Visit to Texas, Fisk, you should be able to find it.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's really fun.
Okay, so some of the investors out of the East Coast that were helping fund some of these expeditions, what were they getting out of it? Was it the right to publish the research?
I think
essentially,
so,
without
but-
doing any other work?
Yeah, Asa Gray was at Harvard, and so he sponsored a lot of people, but then he wouldn't necessarily publish, and then he was very bad about giving them money to live on. And I think it was just for reputation. Yeah, I don't think they were, I mean, maybe if they had uncovered some great resource, they would have said, we're the first one to find the magical rubber tree or something.
Is your source list on the Heartwood website somewhere or?
Yeah.
No, but I don't think, well, I don't know. The slides will be on the Zoom.
That's true. I guess.
I don't know if you can pause the slides, or I can send it to you or.
Okay, that's all right. Just kind of know where to find it.
Yeah,
This will be on YouTube, so.
okay,
Couple days.
yeah, just
Yeah.
slow down and click on something,
You'd have to just find the, I guess, scroll through till you got to the point where.
yeah. Okay, so I think what, like a break, no, and then we'll come back and do the other?
Yeah, maybe 10-minute break, come back at 9:35.
Is it on? Ready to start up again? All right, now I'm gonna talk about the land ethic, and this is the first chapter in your manual. I went out of order, so I like to start back with the early Etruscans and then get up to present day. This is about the overarching principles of the Master Naturalist program and what we're looking for. So you were gonna hear, I know from John Stacy at another meeting, and he is a guy who is happy to not have any guidebooks. And I am happy to take all his unwanted ones or buy them for $1. I have a lot of books. I live, this is why I'm doing this particular talk. I live up here at Dacus. Anybody know Dacus? We have a Baptist church and a little corner store with an ice house attached. And Dead Man's Curve is what we have. It looks like that. So my husband's family bought this place 62 years ago, and it looked like that. And now it looks like this. So you can see how fast trees grow around there. And then our family has another place in Edwards County. So it's about an hour north of Del Rio. And that looks like this. So two very different areas. So the Texas Master Naturalist Program mission is to develop a corps of well-informed volunteers to provide education, outreach, and service dedicated to the beneficial management of natural resources and natural areas within their communities for the state of Texas. So I think a lot of us, when we think about nature in Texas, these are the kind of regions we think about: East Texas, Fulton, Galveston, Pedernales, Blue Hole, Rock Springs, South Rim, Guadalupe Mountains, the Plains. But of course, in reality, most of us live in the urban areas. This is the graphic that's in your book, and it's from 2017. So I did a little research to update, and things haven't changed that much. 83% of Texas land is rural, but 86% of the population lives in the urban areas. And Census Bureau says that we are at 30.5 million people in Texas. Unlike most of the western states, 95% of Texas is in private hands. And so you can see only 10% of the people live in the rural areas, and of those people, 1% are the landowners. The other people live in town in small rural areas, I guess. But the larger ranges are continually being broken up and turned into smaller areas. And so, like, I am a picture perfect person here. We have small acreage by Texas standards. But good land management, if you are not a landowner in the rural areas or a natural area, good land management is still important to you because of it causes there to be better wildlife habitat, better grazing land, greater ability to withstand drought and flood. I think that's probably the most important thing to a lot of us. You're gonna learn about the water table and all that, and how big natural areas can improve the aquifers. So all the different regions of Texas would have different good land management strategies. But no matter where you are, I think we would all agree that that could not be best practice. If you're an expert and you know better than me, like when this would be the right thing to do, I would love to know. This happened across the street from me. It was a skinny 7-acre plot. And it changed hands, and one day these bulldozers came in and they started digging trenches. And so a neighbor went up and asked them, what are y'all gonna do with this place? And they said, well, we're from a company from Louisiana, and we're going to go out and work the pipelines and clear all the trash off the pipelines and bring it here and burn it in trenches. And fortunately, I guess they thought we were gonna be not educated because of where we live, but we had 2 environmental consultants and a fire marshal living on the street. And they said, that's not legal in Texas to burn things from any other property, to take things from one property and burn it on another without, I guess a lot of permitting and stuff. So they ended up that they resold it, but this is what it looked like. And the only reason that those other trees are standing is because that's where the lot line was. They just scraped it down to nothing. And then this is your typical suburban yard. This is not so great either. All the crepe myrtles, not native. Bradford pear, not native. There's nothing in that yard that's native probably. That was my house in Sugarland, and we moved in 91 after it had been empty for a year and a half. And the first letter we got from the homeowners association was, pick those weeds in your front yard, and it was evening primrose. It was pink flowers, it was not thistles. But they were like, nope, it doesn't belong. And you're gonna have a lesson later about, Douglas Tallamy writes about the importance of all the yards. If we all did a little wildscaping in our regular suburban yards, we would add another national park worth of area to the US. So in looking at healthy land, you're looking for diverse native flora and fauna populations that are sustainable long-term. And in the Master Naturalist program, the 2 basic goals are diversity, a variety of species and variety within species, and sustainability, using a resource without depleting or permanently damaging it. So look at, in the hill country, a diversity of species would look something like this. So that's a spotted skunk, and they're pretty rare. And we have 2 game cameras set up back side by side. One's a still camera and one's a video. And so the still shot caught the fox going through, but the little skunk was not there long enough to get in the still shot. He's just in the video. And diversity within species. So here we see, a healthy population where we have groups of native animals. Elk were native in Texas and they've been reintroduced.
Somebody online wants to know the raptor with the large beak. What kind of raptor?
The kirakira, there's a kirakira and a red-tailed hawk, I think. So sometimes we have these cute little animals that we go, oh, look, that's diverse. I haven't seen that before. But the problem can be that it was actually introduced. These are aoudad, they're They're not sheep and they're not goats, they're their own thing. Axis deer that were originally from India. And of course, everyone's favorite. When we have too many of any of these kind of creatures, they might do well, their population might do well, but they may be eating things that the native animals need. They may clear the browse line so low that, that birds and small animals don't get the habitat that they need because they're over competing with them. And even plants can be an issue. This looks great, but most of that grass is King Ranch bluestem, which was an improved grass that people planted on purpose, but now it's spread everywhere. And where I am in Rock Springs, then it takes over, and a lot of the bunch grasses that the quail and the turkey need are outcompeted by the bluestem. So in our area, sticking to our area, if we think about what diversity might look like, we want to go back to what the book says, an ideal habitat would have a mix of grasses, forbs, and woody plants that had historically lived here and be free of pesticides and herbicides. Well, that's a prickly pear, I didn't label it, sorry. So where I live, we've got about a 13-acre hay farm, which is Bermuda grass. That is not native, that's not great, but it's a practicality of living where we live, where we do hay and timber. So that's not great. We have a riparian area, which is pretty good. The ideal habitat would also be home to a collection of native animals, insects, reptiles, birds, small mammals, herbivores, and the populations should be sustainable long-term, and it should be free of exotic plants or animals. So thinking about looking at everything on a small scale, because it's not just the big animals that are important. Everything depends on the small critters and the plants. So this was about the diversity that I could find in about a 1-hour walk. A honeybee. This is a wolf spider with her babies on her back. A coreopsis, and then that's an insect nymph on there. A bullfrog and some little fish. Spicebush swallowtail. Zebra longhorn beetles on a thistle. And a little wood satyr. And then this is about just a 10-foot square area. During the pandemic, one of the things that I do every year now, they have a citywide nature challenge where it's a bio blitz, and they encourage people to go out and find every species they can and document it. And the Houston area usually wins, or comes in second. So I'm always trying to find a species that nobody else has. This is in my hay pasture. So even though there's a lot of Bermuda grass in there, there's other plants in there as well. The plant is hairy vetch, which was planted as a fodder plant, and it has escaped and it grows everywhere. And then we have a honeybee, which is also not native to the US. Not everything that comes in from somewhere else is damaging, and some populations are fine and have established themselves. This is the male southern carpenter bee, and the female is totally different looking. And then this is a robber fly. I love them. They look like bees. Except for bees are always busy floating around, and the robber flies are just hanging out on a tree branch until you look at them, and then they're like, what? I wouldn't do nothing. And then they go get something. Oh, yeah, the snake skeleton. Found that too. The Naturalist was not able to identify it based on what was left. And then, so that was what I found just in 10 feet. So anybody can do that wherever they are. Just look at your yard and see what's there. And then also we want to look and see if we can tell about food web, are things getting to eat what they need to eat. So this great blue heron, I've never seen a fish that big in our pond, but the heron found it and ate it. And then another day, this heron, we never put catfish in our pond, but they're there. And that's that one. He couldn't swallow it. He finally left it. And I ran over there and pulled it out of the mud because I couldn't believe how big it was. And that's what he did after he was trying to eat it. So with the best we can do as far as thinking what our habitat should look like now is to go back to the early 1800s and see what these early explorers wrote. April just told me about this great book about, what is it called? Pre-culture or prehistoric?
The prehistory of Southeast Texas.
Yeah, about the Native American groups that were here. So now there's a whole lot of scholarly work has gone into that. But for the most of us, we can just kind of guess, okay, what was it like in the early 1800s? A lot of Texas was more open. The trees had not been allowed to just keep to grow up. And because for one thing, there would have been wildfires every now and then that swept through and cleared out the underbrush. But we cannot return to buffalo herds and let wildfires sweep a big area. So we just have to do the best we can where we are. So the person who probably influenced master naturalist practice more than anybody is Aldo Leopold, who started off working for Fish and Wildlife. And part of his job was to be the predator, to be on these mountains and kill all the natural predators like the wolves. And so he shot this wolf one day and he went over to her and she was dying and he saw the fire go out of her eyes. And his thought was, why do I have any more right to be here than she does? And it really changed his life. And so he ended up writing a lot of articles, trying to get farmers and ranchers of the time to conserve, and said the same tools that have destroyed the environment around us, we can use to rescue the environment. The axe, the cow, the plow, fire, and a gun. So out in the hill country, there's a lot of ash juniper growing everywhere. It is native, but because people have killed a lot of the porcupines who would normally girdle the saplings is one of the problems. It's been allowed to just take over. And one of the issues with that is that rain can't pass through all the branches and needles of the ash juniper and get down to the soil and recharge the aquifer. So for that reason alone, you need to kind of keep it cleared out. So the axe can help you with that. And cows, we have cows. They are not competing with the deer and other animals for their food sources. What they recommend now is having the cows in a smaller pasture, divide up your pastures and move the cows more often and let the grass have time to recover. Controlled burns, this is out in Rock Springs, so they were doing something about that King Ranch blue stem. By doing the controlled burn, seeds that evolved to work with wildfire will then sprout and come up and you'll get a different mix and maybe keep the blue stem down a little bit. And I didn't have any plow pictures. And then a gun, they're beautiful, but there's a lot of them that are out competing because axis deer eat grass as well as the plants that the deer like. So the whitetail can starve while the axis are still getting plenty. So the role of Texas Master Naturalists is to begin their studies of the natural world found here in Texas and continue their study of nature by delving into these elements, all while keeping in mind the interconnectedness of the natural world. All of it is important. My neighbor, her daughter says, well, what does it matter if something's extinct? It's like, well, maybe it doesn't matter to you, but it probably matters to somebody. Oh, this is an issue. Oh, I'm gonna just now, these are just some of the pictures. The other reason I get to give this talk is because I'm retired and I have a camera and a lot of time to take pictures. And so this is something, we were out of town for the weekend, we came home and I was sitting outside and my husband said, oh my gosh, the tree. And so we have this one tree that we've been expecting to fall over for months. And I said, well, it's still there. And he's like, no, look behind you. So every now and then we get a bird, they do amazing amounts of damage. And then this is just some of my other favorite pictures. I'm looking at, like it said, a healthy environment, that you want to see a diversity of mammals, herps, insects, etc. We've had otters a couple times. Now, we have feral hogs. When I hear a gunshot late at night, I'm always hoping they're just shooting a hog. Somebody they know. This little creature, I thought it was a mole. I thought it was a baby mole when I found it, but it is a short-tailed shrew. And they are venomous and poisonous, and their metabolism is such they have to eat like 4 times their body weight in bugs every day or something. So I hope I didn't kill him by taking this picture for him. All right, bat people. We're the bat people. Sharon, aren't you a bat expert?
Oh, no, I'm not an expert.
So normally in the evening, we get 2 little bats flying around that I could never get a picture of because it's dusk. And then last year in August, this much larger bat came and drank out of the pond about 4 o'clock. And our naturalist is divided on what it could be. So do you have an opinion?
Was it there is a large ear, is it a large ear bat? What is it?
Somebody said Eastern red bat. And then I forgot what the other one was that they thought.
Right.
Okay, well, I thought you would just say, oh, obviously
I
it's.
know, I should, sorry. I apologize.
Okay, and then looking at the birds, some of the birds. These, we found this nest in our smoker. And I was very worried that these babies were not gonna be right. I would open the smoker and take a picture once a week. Those Carolina Reds, and they were fine. And then this really made me think, you know, I lived in the city and the suburbs a lot before I got to move out here. And so I'd never seen a screech owl, and seeing it in the tree where his feathers are up, and it looks just like the little dead branches on the tree. And then he flew out and looked at me. So I got some good pictures. And we have barred owl and great horned owl. And then I gathered all these together, but I usually take a walk every day, and under this one tree, I saw a couple of clumps of feathers, and I thought, oh, you know, somebody molted or something. Well, then I saw this yellow claw, not attached to any bird. And then I saw more feathers, and I kept walking and I saw more feathers. So I gathered them all up and did this, and there is an online feather atlas run by Fish and Wildlife. So according to them, this was from a broadwing hawk. And probably a great horned owl got it. Wow. And then, you know, sometimes when it's really cold, the little birds get stunned and you can pick them up. That's a goldfinch. This one just came up on the porch rail and looked at me. Okay, so here's a mockingbird. This mockingbird was just jumping up and down on my chicken coop one day. I was like, what is going on? Oh my gosh, I have them all the time because of the chickens. So, ribbon snake. Here's another rat snake. This is a Slowinski's corn snake. Texas brown snake, which is that big. And then the coloring can change when they're young.
Are these all pictures from your?
Yeah, I've taken everyone. The brown bandit. One night I left here, I left a master naturalist meeting. I had brought the refreshments and stuff, and got home in the dark, and I'm carrying everything into the house, and I'm like, why is the sidewalk moving? And he was out still the next day. And then the hognose.
Are they venomous? No.
No, they will try to convince you that they are, and they will, they try to act like a cobra. They do all kinds of stuff.
Don't they play dead also?
Yeah.
Really well.
Just a little anole. Again, I was just walking and this crawfish just wanted to take me on, just like I was in his territory. This is the turtle that will bite you if you try to kiss them. And of course, we have a million pond turtles, and I have never successfully learned to tell the difference between sliders, cooters. They all look the same to me, but this one, if you notice, his foot is missing, his back foot. Something happened to him at some point. And these are the little skinks. I'm very proud of these pictures because they're about 4 inches long and they run under your feet. And you think, is that a snake? But they're gone, you can't get a picture. So these pictures, when I finally got one still enough to take pictures, I was really happy. Does anybody know what that is? Yeah, it's a siren. It's they stay in their larval stage their whole life. They never develop back legs. And then I just love crab spiders. Like he's camouflaged. This one has like a miniature crab spider in the pattern on his back. And then this one is just, again, ready to attack me. This bug didn't even have a common name. This bug, I needed this bug so bad. I had sheep and goats at the time, and I would walk them every day. And I had a couple of dogs, and one of them had just had an operation where he had to wear an e-collar for like 6 weeks, and he enjoyed hiding in the bushes and then jumping out at the sheep and goats, and everybody was going crazy and bashing into me, and I had had it. We had done this too much, and then I saw this bug, and I'm like, the universe knows I need a treat. So this is a fish fly, and as far as they know, like this is something they don't even know. They know that the larvae are aquatic and are aquatic predators, but the grown-ups, all the books go, well, it probably doesn't eat anything. Like, if Audubon doesn't know this, it seems like somebody should look into that. And I just like that one came out nice and sharp. So this is a grub we got in the compost heap, and we kept it until it turned into this. And again, you can't tell by looking at the grub what kind of beetle it's going to turn into. You just have to wait and see. And this dragonfly I really liked because he's got all his little battle scars all over him. So it's a great blue heron, but we're not used to looking at them from that front on view. So there again, there's our place. And so you can see we've got a lot of diversity. We could do better, but I'm old. I'm gonna do things the way I've done them. And that to me is one of the benefits of Master Naturalists is it's like whatever you can do is welcome. You don't have to be super, there's a video about the guy who started Church's Chicken and then he bought a ranch out in the hill country and he spent who knows how much money and he did everything right and now it's great. Now it's paradise. But if you just can do a little bit, that's still good enough. And these are more quotes from Aldo Leopold, that the land ethic reflects the existence of an ecological conscience. And this in turn reflects a conviction of individual responsibility for the health of the land. Health is the capacity of the land for self-renewal. Conservation is our effort to understand and preserve this capacity. We abuse land because we see it as a commodity belonging to us. When we see land as a community to which we may belong, we may use it with love and respect. So if you have trees and you can leave a dead one stand, that's good habitat.
Ah, I should tell that to my township.
Yeah, I know. If you can leave a little corner for the weeds to grow so that the butterflies and insects can use them. Oh. Yeah, Douglas Talman. And then of course, do y'all know about iNaturalist? Yet, where you take pictures and put them up and you're gonna have a unit on that too. So just documenting what you have. And so that's my thing. I know there's a group through Heartwood that goes out to Huntsville State Park and walks their trails and documents whatever is there. And then Parks and Wildlife has nature tracker projects that you can do. So, oh yeah, I need to change this. This is how many I've got so far. Species that I've tracked at our place. They're not all in this. I've cut a lot out. And that's my camera. People usually ask. And if I was standing there, then it would zoom in that much. So I have a 65 times zoom and I have learned that there is 83 times zoom and 128 out there, so. Another camera. And those are the resources. And then I'm on iNaturalist as textile ranger because my main thing is I'm a weaver and a quilter, so that's why I'm textile ranger. And I blog about nature sometimes at littlewildstreet.com. So I think that's all I was supposed to say. Do they have anything?
Okay, this is kind of impromptu, so you don't have to close attention, but
Do you want
my
to
name?
use the microphone?
Sure, sure.
I can't get to you because there's.
Okay, let me come up there.
I think it might.
Maybe I should. I'll come around, okay? Share my screen. Okay, so my name is Sharon Newsom. I was president of Heartwood chapter last year and starting this year. So I didn't really plan a little thing. I probably should have, and I could have had slides and all kinds of cool stuff, but I didn't. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of background. It was 2004 that Heartwood chapter began its formation. And then in 2005, we received our 501c3 status. So we are a registered nonprofit. So that's our status. And Terry MacArthur is a name you may hear. And in fact, you will hear her speak to you in one of the classes later. She was one of the founding members and the first president probably. And she spent many years as a president. Very energetic. She now works with the Woodlands Township. So you will meet her. And then Diana Foss was our chapter advisor with Texas Parks and Wildlife Department. And she spent many years with us as well.
Another sponsor of ours is the Texas A&M AgriLife, and they have this facility. We have a person representing, Brandon Gregson represents them for us, but we don't have as much dealings with him. He does more with Master Gardeners. Go figure, I don't know. We do so much more diverse things, it's hard to explain that. So I wanted to make sure you knew the website that, and they probably do, right? txmn.org/Heartwood. That is our website. Is that in their materials? Probably, should be, yeah. Okay, so if you go to that website, there's just all kinds of information, so you should just spend some time and then spend time again, looking at what all is there. But one thing, just a couple things I wanted to point out. So if you go to pull that website up and you scroll to the very bottom, you're going to see 4 pictures, squares of pictures there. You can have a link to record your hours, the VMS login. You'll find out about that. How to become a member. Many of you probably clicked on that box. This is how you got to this class. Heartwood Volunteer Projects is another box you can click on. The one I want to mention now is the one at the far right, subscribe to the bulletin and the newsletter. You click on that, and then if you are not already subscribed to the bulletin and newsletter, that's how you would do that. So I'm gonna make sure I point that out to you. So also on the welcome page, there are some pictures that scroll through, and those are interesting to look at a lot of times, just pictures we collected or various things. So our mission statement is also there right at the beginning. And then our chapter meetings, which Rebecca's already told you, held the second Wednesday of each month, except for December, in which we do not meet in December at all. They are open to the public. And the other time, well, yeah, we have a meeting in August, it's just not in our regular location, it's at Mercer, Botanic Gardens. So if you will look on our calendar, which is one of the tabs across the top, that should say when our meetings are, and if you click on that, it will tell you where they are. All right, I wanted to mention that. One second. Okay, so on the website, I went over to chapter information. There's where our mission statement is. Okay, so there's where our mission statement is. Everybody's probably said it or heard it, but it's to provide education, outreach, and service dedicated to beneficial management of natural resources in natural areas. So I kind of wanted to point out that it's important to become a well-informed volunteer, and that's what really probably brought us all to the class, to learn more, and it's really exciting. And you're gonna learn so much, or I did, my brain was just, I couldn't even retain it all. There's so much to learn, it's so interesting. But after, or while you're learning, especially after, the idea is to reach out and educate the next person. Even if it's your kids or your grandkids, but also to volunteer, that's where this comes from. That's what we're trying to be as volunteers who go out and spread what we know to the public. When you learn something about, here's the wrong way to do it, we need to be spreading that news, because a lot of times we didn't know, right? Our mission, our sponsors, okay. If I go, so that, our mission, if you scroll down there, there's some good information there. Our sponsors who were, partnerships, our volunteer staff. I kind of wanted to point this out because it's important. Our organization is made up of volunteers inspired by nature. That's what brought us here, and that's what our love is. But among these volunteers are those who keep our chapter running by volunteering to do the operational tasks. Now, you might just kind of pass over that real quickly, but as I can tell you, and Melissa can tell you, it's not always easy to do these administrative tasks. And so feel free to ask questions and we'll try our best to answer, but we're not experts. We're volunteers. We're gonna make mistakes. Things don't work sometimes. I drop the ball and I forget to answer an email, whatever, but we're all doing our best. So try to keep that in mind. Let's all just be friends and we're trying to do our best, And the last thing that I thought, I've never read that before, but I have now. Feel free to ask questions, make suggestions, offer to help, and give them encouragement. Yes, we will take that. We would take that and appreciate it very much. I thought, I wish I'd have known that. I would have given past president maybe some more encouragement, because I didn't realize until now how important that is. So the last thing I wanted to read to you, sit down, sorry, once I get to talk, I have trouble sitting down. The preface to your book that you all got today, I don't know if any of you found it, some of you may have. In the preface, I really love this quote. It's by Gary Snyder, and I don't know who that is, but his quote's in there. Find your place on the planet, dig in, and take responsibility from there. And I just think that quote says so much. You know, find your place, get a place, do it, and then take responsibility. So you see, if there's trash to be picked up, pick the trash up. Don't leave it and, do it. Take responsibility. And I just think that's a great, great quote, and I love that. So that's all I had, just transition time.
Here's Melissa. I think Matt's gonna help me put my screen up. Okay.
I'm gonna do this differently, so than the prior year. We're gonna use my VMS account, so I can show y'all how to go through it and show you all the different codes. So you can see when you log in, it says report my service, view my logbook. And there's like 3 of you that don't have VMS accounts. And if you're here today, I will fix that. It's been a lot of work to get all of y'all on the system, get you everything onto your account that you would need to do this job. Volunteer job. So let's not forget that. So almost everybody's done. And after I do this today, if you have any questions, I'm gonna sit back there and you can come ask me anything. I will show you anything and help you learn to be comfortable with this, okay? So this is the VMS, and it is the volunteer management system. You all have a password that you put in to log into this system, okay? If you lose that password, I can give you another one, and then you can log back in and change your password. It's not a big deal. So what I'm gonna try to do, I hope this works for everybody on Zoom too. Is somebody watching questions? Okay, cool. So when you go to report my service, you just click on report my service. And this is the little drop down box that is going to drop down and show you all of our federal reporting codes. So the first one, the AT is what I'm talking about. The first code is AT. AT is advanced training. In order for you to finish this class, you will have to have your initial training hours, your 40 hours of volunteer work, and your 8 hours of AT. So the 8 hours of AT can be gotten with our chapter meeting. So when we have a chapter meeting, you will put that under AT chapter meeting. So in 2 weeks, a week and a half, we're gonna be at Sam Houston University, and that's gonna be on Valentine's Day. I mean, really? That's when we're having it. And that's gonna probably be about an hour and a half of AT.
You never know some romance with.
I know, there's no, I think it's Mayweather that's coming, and he's what did we call him? A forager, yes. We've seen him in different groups. Our master gardener group he came one day, and he can take you out to your yard and help you find a salad, and you can eat it. So, and he does know a lot of medicinal things, so I think it's a good one not to miss. But that would be an hour and a half of training, okay? Another thing that y'all can get, if we scroll down to the AT, and today, one of the things I want to do is give you these ideas so you know where you can find this initial stuff, so you have a great start to getting your hours. And you're not going, oh my gosh, where am I going to find all this stuff? I'm going to give it to you today, so you don't have to go searching for it or worrying about it. So if I go to TMN Tuesday, TMN Tuesday is every month, and right now in January and February, we have some extras on that. You can log into YouTube and look for TMN Tuesday, and it will pop up. You can watch any of the AT TMN Tuesdays at any time throughout 2024 and log them as AT. Yes?
But not necessarily YouTube, but the state side.
Yeah, it's on YouTube. Your president's meeting's on YouTube. Did you know that? Yeah, so
I just did it off the website, so.
I'll be scrolling, looking for something early in the morning, and I'll come across the, president's meeting or the AT. And you can log those, you watch them, you log them, they're very interesting, they're very educational. A lot of professionals in different fields, they bring to you all year. And they are encouraging too, you're like, wow, I didn't know that was a thing. You'll just learn so much, like you will be learning in this class. Every week you're like, wow, that's a thing. There's all these things. Okay, so I've just showed you 2 ways to get your AT. Now we're gonna scroll down to another one. AT Texas Waters. Every month, there is a Texas Waters video that is hosted by Melissa Feldy with the Texas Waters Education Program with Texas Parks and Wildlife. If you are interested in being a Texas Water Specialist, which is a thing, you can sign up for that today. And if you come to me and you tell me you want to be a Texas Water Specialist, I'm going to click a little box on your account that says you're in progress of becoming a Texas Water Specialist. And you're gonna do the requirements for that, which is 10 hours of AT and 8 hours of volunteer, somewhere in there. And we'll straighten all that out when you come to the back. I'll show you how to do that. But you will log on to Texas Parks and Wildlife. You will scroll over to their water education program, and then you will scroll down to their webinar series. Okay, so you cannot watch them on your own and count them as AT. You have to log into the live webinar, and because they do little surveys while you're watching it, and you click the survey so they know that you're active. And you can claim those. Those are 1 hour, once a month, from usually 6:30 to 7:30. So there's another AT for you. So you can acquire 3 to 4 hours of AT just off webinars every month, okay? That are free. I mean, all of it's free. It's just your time. So when you finish your Texas Water certification, you get a water pen that's sent to you, and you get a certificate that's sent to you from the state. If you go to the state meeting, and this year's state meeting will be in San Marcos, and if you're a Texas Water Specialist, you're looking forward to that, because it's gonna be at the Meadows, and if you know, the Meadows used to be the glass bottom boats. Maybe you went there as a child and got to do that. I know I did. So you'll get to do 4 hours of water training with Melissa Feldy and all the other water experts out there. So there's stream team, testing, water testing, and Miss Terry MacArthur does that. Is she coming to speak? She's on the list, so I'm sure she'll be talking to you all about that more. But if you're interested in the Texas Water Specialist, let me know so I can get you signed up. And some of the classes that you take count as AT Texas Waters. So anytime you do the AT webinar, you will scroll down to that one, AT Texas Waters, and log your hours. But let's say you did a class with Terry MacArthur, and that may be with the Woodlands Township, so it may be AT Woodlands Township, and once you're in process, you will scroll down, and it will say, there'll be a little box, and it'll say Texas Water Specialist. You have to check that box every time you're out doing something different for Texas Waters, okay? Miss Terry has you flagging storm drains and stuff like that. It's under resource management. So even though you're under resource management, you will scroll down to that little Texas Waters box and click it. And I might be able to show that to you on one of my other ones in just a minute. Do y'all have questions about advanced training?
How many hours do you need for the water specialist training?
I think it's at 10 hours of volunteer and 8 hours of AT.
I think that's right.
Yeah, that's right, I get it mixed up. And then after that, you don't have to do any more volunteer hours, really. You just have to do the, no more training hours, no more advanced training hours, just 10 hours of volunteer every year. That's it. And basically, Texas Waters blends with a lot of stuff that we do. So if you're doing river cleanup or storm drain tagging, water testing with stream team, and that's a big thing here. We have a lot of people that go out and test the waters around us, and that'll come up in another class, and I don't want to overwhelm you today, but that's another class.
Are those 10 hours part of the 40 or on top of the 40?
Yeah, on top of no, they're part of the 40. If you get them during your 40 every year, you're good, okay? But this year, you have to have your training hours, your 40 hours, and your 8 hours. Okay,
40 volunteer hours, 8 AT hours. If you come to all your classes, I think it's built in that you will at some point have like 8 extra AT hours. How many hours did y'all schedule in? 50? 50. So you only, it's somewhere between 40 hours, class hours you need. And then the other ones you could put as AT. And we'll get to that towards the end of the class. I may even reach out to you and say, you have all your class hours. Your next class can be AT. But you have lots of options for that. You're taking our classes every month, our chapter meetings, your TMN Tuesdays, your Texas Waters, those are all things you can do. Now, if you're part of another group, if you're part of, they just had a meeting, the Texas,
Master gardeners, master beekeepers.
no,
Bird society.
the plant, not the plant society. What's our other one, where all of our other people are? Yes, thank you, I lost it this morning. The Native Plant Society. So our group, they have that too. You can log into theirs and you can take their class. Woodlands Green has AT. And it's on here, AT Woodlands Green. They have a class. You can just go to their websites and click, you register for their class. It's free. They'll send you a link when it's time to log in and you can take that AT.
Just a quick question, is there a list of the different certifications that you can get while you're going through this class, like a compiled list?
Not really, but I can send you one. Because there's a lot of little things I want to make sure you know that you have a chance to take, so you're not worried about getting those 40 hours of training. I mean, volunteer work. Because it's really easy to get them if you know where to look. Okay, so that's AT. And this VMS training is not one that you use. So there's already a few people that have logged that, and I'm gonna have to fix it. So that one you would not ever use. So let's scroll down to our next one. And you'll see different ones on here that you don't have. I'm an angler educator, so I'm gonna have angler education. I volunteer for Brazos Bend State Park. You're not gonna have that. If you come and volunteer for them, then you would have that.
I used to,
You used to?
5 years.
5 years? Yes, I've been out there for 7 years now, so it's a lot of fun. Okay, CB, this is the next one. So CB chapter meeting is where all of our chapter hours go. So when you come to the meeting, we spend about 30 minutes on business, sometimes a little longer if we have a lot going on. But you're gonna log that under chapter meeting 0.50 generally. Okay, if it goes a little longer, it may be 0.75, but usually it's 0.50. Now, if you volunteer, like we had mentors here today volunteering with y'all, their hours go under CB admin, and then they will click on the little drop-down box and put that under training class. So, and if you're doing work, chapter business work, that's a lot of your hours go there. And some of you may end up helping in different ways, and that's where your hours will go.
Melissa,
Yes,
can you show them where to log their training hours?
yes, I'm getting there.
Okay.
I'm getting there. I have it all scheduled.
There's a question.
Okay, we're getting there. I'm trying to go over each one. Okay, so DO, direct outreach. So direct outreach is leading, organizing, developing, delivering, instructing, or staffing an educational activity where participants have planned learning objectives and generally stay for the full event, okay? That would be something that maybe we have a day at W.G. Jones where we have students come out and we have everything planned for them and they stay the whole time and you're doing that work. And we have several agencies that we do that with. Heartwood, W.G. Jones, Huntsville State Park, and Jesse Jones, where we have events that we are working a table or teaching a class. And so that's direct outreach, okay? You can see all of our partners on there. We have a lot of partners that we do direct outreach with. But if you're doing a direct outreach and you're like, they're not on here, that's okay. You may go to direct outreach. There should be an other. And if there's not, well, it just goes right there at the bottom. Training and education events, just another partner.
I was just gonna let everyone know that in your manual, there's a page that gives a little bit more information about these codes. I see some folks writing.
Yeah.
And everything. But
Yeah, they've got it all planned. This is really organized for y'all. It's all in your folders. I'm just going over it verbally, and if you have questions, this is the time that you would get to ask.
So obviously the ones that are on the list here for direct outreach and other things are the ones that are pre-approved.
Yes.
So when you are going to, let's say, other,
Yeah.
that might have been approved like in the bulletin or somewhere else.
Exactly. Or you found something. So maybe in your community, you're having something at a local school that's inside of Montgomery County, Walker County area. That's generally our area. I'm not saying you can't go out of that, but if you do, you need to get permission, or just let them know what you're doing. Because you might want to, you may need help. And if you let us know, it's Kay that does that, then we can say, hey, you need help? We can get some more volunteers for you. So, and then I know that you're doing it too. So when it comes across VMS, I kind of have an idea that, okay, she's over there doing that, that's approved, we know that that's a thing.
So we should kind of touch base with you first before.
Let me know, yeah, let me know so I can know what's going on. If not, then I'm gonna email you and say, what is that?
Back on the chapter meetings, if they watch the chapter meeting on YouTube, does that count as advanced training or does
No.
it need to be in person?
It has to be in person.
Thank you.
So when we do any AT, the only ones that I told you that were available is TMN Tuesday and the Texas Waters on the webinars. TMN Tuesday are the only advanced training that you can take that is not live, okay? And there's a reason behind that. They want to make sure that, go ahead.
Sorry, and also you can watch them all in the calendar year that they occur.
Right,
Like anytime that's.
2024.
2023 TMN Tuesdays are not available now.
No, they're not. Even, but they're good if you want to go watch them. We have some good ones. We had an astronaut one day. And that was awesome. I actually had kids at one of my early childhood programs and we logged in. And those kids got to watch that astronaut situation and they loved it. So, okay. Do y'all understand direct outreach?
Yes.
Okay.
What about indirect outreach?
There's no indirect outreach.
We're gonna go
Also public outreach.
We're getting there.
Okay.
We're getting there. There's a lot. That's why we're scrolling through it this way. But you can see we have Huntsville State Park, Lake Creek, leave no trace. And that's something you would do like at a state park. And that's, you have to have a certification. for that one.
Leave no trace.
Mhm. Okay, field research. Oh, this is a touchy one. We love that everybody loves to do field research, but there's rules on field research. And I do have it where I can send it to all of you. I can send all the rules to you on field research, but I will touch base on a few things. eBird is a touchy subject. So you can go out in eBird all day long, but you may not you cannot log all your eBird time on field research. You can log the amount of time that you are logging it into eBird. You can only log 0.25 every time for that birding. They made it a rule. That's all I can tell you. They made it a rule. The same thing for INAT. You can go out on INAT and do BioBlitz when we have planned BioBlitz. And there's several coming up that you will be able to take part in and you will thoroughly enjoy. And if you're out there 10 hours, great, you can log that during the BioBlitz in that circle that you're BioBlitzing in. You can do that. But if you're just doing INAT in your backyard, you cannot claim that. I know, they fixed that a long time ago. Because there was a time when you could. But what if you were doing a pollinator blitz? If it's scheduled, and some of them are scheduled.
What is a blitz?
A blitz is when you take that INAT, your phone out, and you start taking pictures of bugs like she was telling you, and you're uploading into INAT. You're gonna learn about that later. I'm here to tell you that you can't claim all that just wandering around in a park, okay? Unless you're on a couple of different loops.
You had mentioned birding and the or whatever.
Mhm.
You can take it all. One of the things that a lot of people may not realize from Bayou Land Conservancy, Jojo Bradbury, those are bird walks. I think all that's AT, isn't it?
It is if you're with her, yeah, you can
Yeah.
do, yes, but that's different from
Right.
logging them.
Yeah.
So, and I will tell you, if you're with a group of people and you're out birding, and you're all on eBird, there is no point in all of you logging the same bird you've seen in the same spot. You choose one person to be running the eBird, and then you put it all in there. Because it's gonna show, you know, it's just not, and we always tell you that when you're out doing field research, find one person in your group to log all the data, and then do it that way. And we're gonna touch base on that, on Naturalist more, because we're gonna have a class on that. But it is field research. When we do our bio blitz, that's where you will log your hours. There are some adopt-a-loops that we do have, and it is on our, on this field research. I'm gonna show it to you in just a minute. We'll use Huntsville State Park for an example. Huntsville State Park has adopt-a-loop. It has a number and everything that you would log. If you wanna go to Huntsville State Park and log your species on adopt-a-loop, and you can, there's a way to do all that. We're gonna have a class on that too. You can count that as field research, adopt-a-loop, and then in the description box, you would put in what loop you were on, and you get all those hours. So if you're a birder and you're like, I can't put this all on eBird and claim it, no problem. You're on a loop, you can log it on that loop. Don't ask me why it's a double standard, but it is. And that's, I'm giving you the way out, is adopt-a-loop. And most of the time when you're birding in one of our state parks or one of our partners, they have a loop. And you can find that loop and you can log that time on that loop, that you're logging your birds, maybe you're logging insects on INAT, that's okay. You're on adopt-a-loop. I have a few ways around a few things, but the eBird thing, I don't have a way around it. You can only log the time that you're on the computer doing the 0.25.
Sorry to harp on the eBird thing again, but a few of us went to something that was organized by like the Houston Wilderness.
Yes,
Park.
you can,
The account,
and what's your name?
April, but it was Christine and Ashley
Yeah.
and Miranda also, but we all just showed up to the same thing.
Right.
And one person did the list, but it was not just, I mean, it was their official monthly.
It is, I see, it came across to be a mess.
Okay.
But, when it's in one of our groups like that, you show up to Club Woods or wherever and you're doing a bird population, it goes under field research bird population. Okay, so that's not gonna be eBird. So, and I have it on there right now, bird population. So if you're at Huntsville State Park and you're doing a bird survey for the park and you're writing down all the birds, you're taking it back in, you're logging it into the monthly survey, bird populations. And it counts. The time you spend out there counts. Whatever you put on eBird, it doesn't matter. I mean, it doesn't matter to me, because that's your own thing, but you can claim it all right here, but you cannot claim it if you're putting it on eBird. Like I said, I'm gonna give you a way out on some of it. I'm gonna give you a way around it, I should say. Because that's hard, you go out and you spend a lot of time, if you're a diehard birder, that's a lot of time, and I understand that. I get, a lot of people get upset about that, but I can tell you, if you're on adopt-a-loop, you get to claim those hours. If you're doing bird population, you get to claim those hours, okay? Now, I'm gonna scroll down to another one that's coming up. I mean, not another one that's coming up, but another one that you're gonna learn about. That's in your backyard, and that's the weather reporting. So this is field research. Terry, is Terry doing this one? I don't know who's doing the weather. So when we get to this one, there's people that log weather every day, and then they claim it on VMS under field research Coco Ross. And you're gonna learn about that. This is cool. You can do this in your backyard. Walk out every day, check your rain gauge, it's empty, log into Coco Ross, 0. Now, the best way to claim it is either weekly or monthly. I prefer weekly because it's easier to keep up with. But if you have a little calendar that you're keeping up with your hours, which is, I suggest this, that you write this stuff down, then you're gonna write all your Coco Raw stuff down every day. And then Friday, you may go in and put, I watched weather from Sunday to Friday. And you put the date in of the month and the days, okay? And that's gonna be, in my experience, it takes about 30 minutes a week to walk out there, look at that rain gauge, empty it, put it back, walk back in the house. It does not take a long time. Some people claim more. I don't know how many rain gauges you have on your property. So, if you have enough that takes you an hour, okay. Now, if you want to claim for the month, then yeah, that may be 2 hours a month or an hour a month, whatever time it takes you. Some of you have big property. You may have multiple things going on. I understand that. But guess what? That's another volunteer thing that you can do. And it's really cool to learn that. If you take
I like to have my, my property diary, you know, how much rain did I get? And how cold was it? And when I'm doing the birding, oh, I'm gonna get to that one. I always log the temperature and if it was raining and all that, the metadata, you're gonna log all your metadata. So that's another one you're gonna learn about, and it's easy to do, and you're helping out the community by reporting the rain. And we don't have sleet and snow, it's very rare, but one year I got to report snow, and during Erie, I was so excited, because we never get to do that in Texas. Okay, so there's a little eBird monitoring, and usually that is 0.25, the amount of time you took to put your bird list into eBird. You can see there's a lot more stuff on there, and I'm gonna scroll down a little further until I get to another easy one for your house. And, whoops, yeah, feeder watch.
What is Lake Houston Wilderness? You had that earlier.
That's another partner of ours. Okay, so they're gonna have bird populations there. And if we're having a blitz, we might do, there may be one there. All of these that you see are our partners, okay? So the Houston bat team, we now have the Huntsville bat team. So a lot of people used to go down there, Maury would go down there and do reports on those bats and take data. But now we have Huntsville. All of our partners up here, you're gonna learn about in the next weeks to come. And then you're gonna go, oh, that's where I would put that. That's where I would put those hours if you were doing field research and such. So the same thing for Huntsville State Park. If you're going out there and you're logging birds and you're logging insects, it goes under field research, Huntsville State Park.
On Nest Watch, is there a limit of number of hours?
There is not, it's a seasonal thing. I will tell you that for the bluebird.
Yes.
Yes, for the bluebirds. Are you part of the Bluebird Society?
I am not, but I'm, in my neighborhood, I've got 63 boxes that I monitor on a daily
Okay.
basis.
That is really cool, but if you would go and let them know that you're doing that, they would be really grateful for that.
I can more if we can talk. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Also, if you log those coordinates of those boxes in it, Cornell.
Yes, Cornell.
Yeah, Cornell.
I'm gonna get with that and on
Then
the,
you have the proof. You know,
Yeah,
as,
I've been doing that for 2 years. They're all-
yeah, so that.
yes, you can do that. You can log those hours. I'm just letting you know about the Bluebird Society because you can let them know that you're doing it. They like to know that too. And I don't know if she's coming to speak this year or not. So she's really great. I loved hearing her stories, and I ran across somebody at the state meeting that was selling the Bluebird boxes, and
Yeah, she's speaking on May 18th.
awesome. Which is gonna be kind of on a nest season, but we were getting about one more nest after that, after May usually. Unless you have some brave birds that are gonna go for their third nest in July, but it's usually too hot. Okay. So feeder watch, I'm on feeder watch. Okay, feeder watch is through Cornell, and you log into feederwatch.org and you pay $18 because there is a fee to do this. They're gonna send out a poster of local birds. They're gonna send out some other information for you. But the thing is, you're gonna go to their page, the Feeder Watch page, and you're gonna log what birds were in your yard. So this is something I do and enjoy. And I love finding out that there's birds I didn't even know existed in my yard. And now I hear them. After doing them for, 8 years now, I can tell you what bird it is by sound, which is really cool. So I do this about 8 hours on the weekend, 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the evening, sometimes during the day. So you can claim 8 hours a week on Feeder Watch. And that's volunteer work. This is helping Cornell University watch migration, give them an idea how many birds we see. For instance, 2 years ago, last year, I had hundreds of cedar waxwings in my yard. I had videos of it. It was amazing. It's on a cold, crisp morning, and the sun was hitting them, and they're kind of yellow, they're really pretty, and they have a high-pitched sound. Hundreds. This year, 4. And Cornell needs to know that. They're watching those migration habits. Did the weather push them over? Did the weather not make them come down as far? There's all this scientific data that helps them learn about where these birds are going. So there's some years I don't see anything come through that would be an odd bird for my yard. Like the creepers, I didn't have one creeper this year, the little, I don't know what's happening. And I have the same birds that are little, I don't know, they seem to have their own characters. When you start watching them, you're like, wow, that mockingbird, he shows up every day and runs everybody away from the feeders. It's like they have their own, I think he's like a crime boss, you know, and he's just running everybody off. As soon as he shows up and the blue jays show up, everybody leaves. And then, you know, they'll leave and then all the other little birds will come back. So it's really fun to watch and watch the characteristics of the birds. And even my little grandson, he's 3, he goes, where's my binoculars at? And he has to go get his little Mickey Mouse binoculars, and he gets in the window and he can't see out of them, but he thinks he's birding, and that's okay. I've already planted that seed that he is going to be birding. So that is something fun you can do from your yard, and you can set up the feeders. They will ask you your location, and they will ask you how many feeders you have, how many water features you have, or any of that kind of information. You can do that from your yard, and you can claim those hours, okay? Now, I'm giving you some easy stuff, because I don't want you to sweat those 40 hours, but I do want you to get out and learn how to do public outreach. I'm not gonna let you just get off easy. Okay, so let's see if we scroll down some more. Stream team, you'll learn that with Miss Terry. Adopt a loop, that's what I was talking about. If you're out at Huntsville State Park, that's an adopt a loop. You can log those hours for your birding and all that other kind of stuff. And we do have a contact person for that, and I think it's Carolyn Borsham, right?
No, it's Cream.
Oh, Cream's doing it?
Yes.
Okay. And I need to email him back today because he wants to know populations. The next one is our field research for Huntsville Bat Colony. That's really popular. They go out there on Saturday nights and they have all their gear. Jennifer Sill is doing that, and who else? Is that?
She's doing field research. The rest of it's more like the public outreach for the bat chat.
Right, some people, when people show up and you go take that test, not a test, don't take a test, you go take that class to be an outreach person for the bats, you go out there and you answer questions, kids show up, all kinds of people show up, they wanna learn about those bats. Are they gonna hurt us? Are they dangerous? What do they do? And you get to inform them that, you know, why we need them, all the crops that they keep all the insects off locally. You get to give them that fun stuff and set up a little table for public outreach. So it's fun to do that. Okay, see that one right there? That's where all your class training goes, initial training. Okay, so today's class goes there. Next week's class goes there. The next week's class goes there. You said I'm going with this. Got it.
Should that be showing up in our list now?
Yes, I'm still adding a few people because some of you were lost in the system. And this happens every year. Sometimes other VMS people will grab the wrong name and they'll go into their chapter and then they get spit back into the inbox and I find you again. And this happened this year and I was really frustrated. And I put in a help ticket with a list of all the people that I did not have that Shelley told me should be part of this group. And she goes, I don't see them. And I just found her last night. I was emailing her, I found you. And it happens. So there's only 3 people that are still missing their account right now. And I'm gonna put another help ticket in today and say, look, they say they're enrolled. Where are they? And then we have 4 people over us that work for the state that go in and just have all access to all of the chapters. And then if somebody got placed in another chapter, they can throw them back in our box. What happens is, if you did not put Heartwood Master Naturalist, that you were interested in Heartwood, there's no chapter name there. So anybody can accidentally pull you and put you in theirs. And it's generally just a simple mistake. They clicked the wrong box. That's all it takes with this system. This system is old. It is antique, actually, on today's standards. And we are getting an upgrade this summer, so I'm looking forward to that. And we've all been complaining for years how we would like to be an app. And I don't know if that'll ever happen, but okay. So I went back to. So I showed you initial training, but I want to go back up here to the field research real quick to show you the feeder watch. See the drop-down box? This is kind of how it's going to be on Cocoa Raws for weather reporting. You put the days in. So generally I would put a weekend in. And then it says how many hours, and you put 8 hours. And then you would describe, like in my box, I usually put 32 species of birds overall, 300 birds. And then that way they have an idea. It doesn't really matter because that's not where you're logging the true data. You're actually going to feeder watch and logging the data, but you're getting time for it on our system. Okay. NPA. And this one is not used a ton, and this is Natural Public Access. It is used a lot through Bayou Land Conservancy because they are clearing a lot of trails and stuff, so it usually goes on their accounts, and there should be one for PLC. No, there's not.
Yeah, it's the first one.
Oh, it's the first one, okay, I went over it. So you can see all of those groups that we have, and that's, you go out there, you're clearing access for the public to get in, and that's where those hours go. OT is other. So.
Okay, stop.
Okay. So OT, other partner stuff that would be considered, an example, you are a volunteer for Bayou Land Conservancy, you're sitting on their board and you're in one of their meetings, that's OT, okay? That's where that goes. It's not funded in any way, shape, or form, so that's where those kind of hours go. If you're with the rehabbers, with Friends of Texas Wildlife, if you're over there, it's OT. If you're doing intake and stuff like that, it's OT, right? They don't get to claim those hours. So moving on to public outreach, that is when you're out working a booth and people are coming and going, and you get to claim those hours for public outreach. We have a lot of public outreach events that will be coming up in the months to come. So those go there. And you can see all the different public outreach things that we have. Woodlands Green just had the tree Arbor Day. They were passing out trees. I think a few of y'all did that. So RM, resource management. So resource management, one of the top ones that is logged for us is W.G. Jones Butterfly Garden, and it's RM W.G. Jones State Forest. And they go out there and they just clean the gardens, keep it all nice and pretty, so when the visitors come, it looks nice, and that's what they clean those for. Now, you may find another partner that you want to do that with, but you just have to let us know. And if it's something that becomes reoccurring, and this happens every time we have a new intern class, a lot of y'all bring in new things for us, and then we add a code. If it's used a lot, we'll add it. So, and then you see TMN, Vital Volunteer. That is a fair that's coming up in the weeks to come, and that's all online. And you're gonna sit and listen to a lot of people give you stories, ideas that you can do online. You were doing that, weren't you?
Yeah, and so is that where I would put the hours for, not just when I sat and listened to the seminar, but then when I did the remote work that they told me to do?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's remote computer work, like you're helping them out with some of their databases and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that's always a good option. And listening to all of it, you're still like, wow, that's a lot of interesting things in the state of Texas that's going on that they need help with. Okay? Okay, so that is our hours. Now, if I go in, you can see I have feeder watch up. Let's see if I put Huntsville State Park in. And I'm doing this because I want you to see this box, that Texas Waters box, okay? So let's say I went up to Huntsville State Park and we were having an event and we were cleaning out Lake Raven. I don't know, maybe we were pulling tires out of there. I don't think there's tires in there anymore, but maybe we were pulling tires out, we were doing whatever, cleaning up. That's Texas Water Specialist. We're cleaning up a Texas waterway. So you will check your little box if you're gonna be a water specialist. If you're not gonna be a water specialist, don't check the box. But let me know if you're interested. So, yes.
So for the water specialist, do we check that box if we are a water specialist and we're trying to get credit, or if we're there getting master naturalist hours separate from the water specialist, do we not check it? Even
You
if
don't
we
check
are
it if it's
certified?
not water. If it's not water, you don't check it.
But what if, okay, what if we just need those hours? So if we are a water specialist, we do not have to check it if we're doing something water related, if we need master naturalist hours.
Yeah, you don't check it if you just need hours. Only if you're a water specialist, okay? 'Cause you-
But, I mean, if you are a water specialist, but you need master naturalist hours.
Oh, it's all the same. So if you're,
It's all the same.
if
So
you're-
it's gonna go into the same thing.
Yeah.
Does it count for both? Okay.
it counts for both.
Okay.
What's gonna happen is that is a federally funded program. And if I didn't mention this earlier, every hour that you give on one of our funded programs is $24 to the state. The state gives them $24 an hour for everything you do. So that is a funded one. Melissa Feldy goes through these yearly. Like, we come up to that point, she's gonna go through everybody's hours, and you can imagine that's a lot for the state of Texas and the master naturalist groups. But not everybody that's a Texas water specialist is a master naturalist, okay? They don't have to be, it's an outside program. There's high schoolers, there's college students that are all doing this for another program. She's gonna go through it all and let you know if you certified each year, okay? And it's a really cool program. You learn a lot about the state of water in Texas. And once you learn that, you will never look at it again the same. You will be more careful. You just may not even go swimming.
So, I'm a volunteer coordinator over at Naturalists. So if I later on, because I have some volunteer stuff coming up, where would I log that if I'm the one coordinating it? And I want the hours.
If you're coordinating it for them, you're coordinating an event for them, it would depend. It would depend on, that may go under OT.
Is that,
If you're
is
coordinating.
that your job or anything paid for it? Oh, okay, so you're volunteer.
Yeah, and I'll talk about that for a minute. If you work for one of these agencies, you can't log the hours of your work hours. It's double dipping. You can't do it. So I volunteer at Brazos Bend State Park. I can't go out there and volunteer in the gift shop and wear this and count those hours in both places.
Okay.
They're getting paid for me to be there. I mean, Brazos Bend State Park, if you don't know this, the volunteer organization out there is award winning. Every year we get awards for just putting in so much time that we do the work of 17 state employees of all the volunteers. And we have 100 and something employees that, volunteers that are active. So they're cleaning trails. We have all kinds of stuff, but, they get paid for that. They get those hours. Those are federally funded. So we can't double dip hours. And if I had an example of one here that was federally funded, because a lot of this is not federally funded. Huntsville may get something. I'm not sure if they get a lot, but they may get something.
Okay, so,
No, you're fine.
so I also manage their store,
Mhm.
it is not federally funded.
No,
I'm the one that does it, so,
but do they pay you?
no. So, whenever I work it, would that be hours?
Not really. I want to go back to our mission statement. So if you would everybody read the mission statement, it has to be nature-related outreach that you're teaching people, you're doing something that is related to that. I volunteer at the store at Brazos Bend. I can't claim those hours because I'm not teaching anything. Even though a lot of times people come in there because the nature center gets really full and they bring their map to me. And I'm like, oh, you can go see an alligator here, you can go see this here, da, 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 da. But we have to be careful with that. They do audit our hours. So there's times when they go in the system and audit things. We haven't been audited in a while. Actually, our accounts are really good. I even went back. I do an audit every 3 months on our accounts just to make sure there's no mistakes. Because after that, I cannot fix a mistake. Because if I change it, it messes up the funding. And we have to be very careful with that. We'll get in trouble. I'll get in trouble. I don't think they're gonna take my job away, but, yeah, until maybe I find one of you to do it. Okay, so That is the VMS system. So let's talk about if you make a mistake on the VMS system. So maybe you log something in the wrong place and you're like, oh no, how can I fix that? I'm gonna show you. So you're gonna go to this volunteer dashboard and you'll click on that. And then you'll scroll over here to your logbook. Click on that. And then if you see something that whatever, it has this little box on it, you check that box. And then you scroll down, no one's approved my hours because I don't have anybody to do it. I've got to call somebody to help me. And then you just push delete selected record.
Or edit, right?
If you can edit it, if you need to edit it, yes. I find deleting it works better and going back and putting it in again is the best route. Our system's not the greatest. I told y'all it's antique. So sometimes it does have some glitches. Many people call me every year at the beginning of the year and say they can't see their hours at the top of the screen. So if you scroll down, you see my Brazos spin stuff, then you see TMN. All in this area, you'll be able to see everything, how many hours you have in. And then this is where the metadata comes in if you're doing public outreach. So when you're doing public outreach, keep up with how many people came to your booth. We usually have a clicker. We click them. And then we may keep up with adults, children, stuff like that. And that's just metadata that I'm sorry, not metadata, your research data for them. And you put that there. And you don't have to do all of that. I don't think y'all do a lot of that anymore. So mostly just how many people showed up at your booth is all they need. So. Okay, always look at your dates up here. Make sure that you have the right dates. You can change them if once you're in the system for a long time, you can go back to last year. You can always check on all your stuff. And then right here at the top corner, as you can see, there's nothing there. Earlier there was. And this is what happens. It'll say there it is, it pops up. So it shows how much AT and everything I have. Of course, my hours haven't been approved, so that's what I'm sitting at right now. But, and then that's my past hours. So let's talk about what the hours mean to our program and some of the rules of this. So when you do a program or you're doing something for us, you have 45 days to log that into the VMS system, okay? I highly suggest you do it weekly, monthly, you have a time. You know, at the end of the month, you say, okay, I need to log my VMS hours. And I know we have people that do that. And I'll log in and I'll go, oh, they log their hours. It's the same person for miles in the system. And that's cool because most of the time, all of you find your favorite place. It always works out like this, or you even bring something new to us, and that ends up being a lot of people's favorite thing too. And I get to know y'all through what you like. You know, we have the same people that do the butterfly garden. We have the same people that do the bats. We have the same people that do Huntsville State Park or any first day hikes and stuff like that. And that's really cool because we have such a diverse group that just does all kinds of different things with nature. So 45 days to log your hours. When logging your hours, 15 minutes is 0.25, 30 minutes is 0.5, and 45 is 0.75. And they should have given y'all my email. Did y'all put that in the packet by chance? If not, it's heartwoodmembers@gmail.com. And I do not have this email on my phone. I do not have it at my fingertips. I usually have my computer with me through work, but, and I usually check it in the morning and the evening. So if I'm not right back with you, it's because I have a job. And I will get back with you, don't worry. And if it's something you're worried about, you can text me, 281-827-3074. I do work with children a lot, so I cannot reply instantly. When I get out of a room, that I can get back to you and help you fix most anything with this system, okay? I don't want y'all to be worried. What? 281-827-3074.
Thank you for giving us that.
Oh, no problem. And don't panic, please don't panic over any of this. It's all fixable, okay? For the most part, you can't break the system. It's been tried. Just last year, somebody tried to break it. No. And it was fixed. Okay.
They didn't have to try, actually.
No, you didn't even have to, she did not. So it's kind of a funny story. We had somebody just click the wrong button and it wiped out everything, all the funding. And it wasn't just our group, it was another group did this too, another chapter. And I was talking to Cheryl about it at the state meeting, and she goes, oh yeah, $500,000 was gone in a cloud. This is somebody's money. You know, these are groups of people that are waiting for their funding, and they're like, your funding's gone. No, that didn't happen, but it did disappear for a little while. They did find it and get it all back up. But can you imagine losing that funding, that a crucial partner of ours needs that to work with children or work with different groups? It's really important to have that money. I know at Rise of Spin, we get quite a bit of funding, and it keeps our park beautiful. You know, we have that money to be able to go buy the things we need every time we flood. We have to get new things. So, okay, so when you become, you finish this class, and you get your 40 hours of volunteer hours and your 8 hours of AT. And I've given you a lot of freebies there, freebie options that are easy, weather, birds. You get your certification pin, and it's a little dragonfly. And this will be your first pin you get, okay? And then if you get your first 250 hours to 500, 1,000, or whatever, you get a pin for each milestone, which are dragonflies, okay? So that's kind of fun. We don't want you to do it for the pin, but we will reward you. We will reward you. And if you get an extra 40 hours on top of the 40 hours you have to get to certify this year, so that's 80 hours and 16 hours of AT, our pin for this year is a rattlesnake. So it's kind of cool. We had a guy come talk about rattlesnakes at the state meeting.
It's actually, he's gonna be on TV Tuesday next month.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, the
You gotta
same guy,
watch him.
the Same guy.
He did a lot of research and, I mean,
What's his name?
oh, I don't know. It'll be on there. I don't remember what his name was. That was a lot of information. We were at the end of that state meeting. You have no idea. It was really good too. It was a banner meeting. Let me tell you, they bussed us out to a ranch to see the eclipse. And it was amazing. We had a really good time. And that, I've gone to other state meetings, but that one by far was amazing. And we were at the McAllen, Civic Center, not Civic Center,
Are those same people organizing this year's meeting?
oh yes, it's always the same people. So,
They're just getting better then.
I don't know, this is gonna be tough to beat. I mean, because you had 9 world birding centers around us. And I went to 7. And it was on the border. I mean, you're looking at the wall straight. The wall that you don't know that it's still going up over there. It's still there. I went birding a lot by myself, and you would hear gunshots and stuff, but people were hunting, you know, but I'm just saying, it was like, wow, this stuff exists down here. This is crazy that this is still going on. So there was that. We did a night hike where we went looking for bugs, and Sam helped do that. That was fun. We had a lot of fun. So you're out with your kind of people looking for critters, and until Carolyn tried to say, what did she try to pick up? A scorpion. I said, that's a bad idea. Do not pick up that scorpion. We actually walked into Mexico on one of them, and went down to the Rio Grande, and we'd seen the border patrol come by and everything. And birds and stuff, they don't have borders, you know, these critters, they didn't have borders. They go wherever they want, whenever they want. So we were at the butterfly, what is that thing called? Yeah, the national butterfly thing. So it was cool. I've seen birds I've never seen in my life down there. And I want to go back. I'm already like, I've got to get back down there because I need to finish going to the World Birding Centers. So, the state meeting this year is in San Marcos. You do get hours for that. It is advanced training, and it's gonna be, posted. Usually they open it up in August. They'll announce it in May, like who's coming, who the speakers are gonna be. And then in August 1st, actually, you were on your computer early that morning because you want to get your field research, field trips in. And they go fast, they go really fast. If you want to do the excursions, there are excursions, aren't they? You can just go out with other people. I think we'll have the glass bottom boats this year. We'll have lots of local hiking and things that you go out with other experts that teach you stuff. But you need to get on there early if you want to get those excursions. And it does cost quite a bit of money. So plan that, start saving for it, because it is exciting. I thought I had a really good time this last year. And we've had several.
How expensive is it?
It was about $400 and that's without the.
Hotels.
It's
Yeah,
all the meals, but it's not the hotel.
Meals and-
Yeah.
And all the classes, but it's $400-something and that's with no hotel.
no, and then they fed you, they did feed you. We had breakfast a couple times and they fed us when we went out to that ranch. They drove us on tour buses.
Yeah, it did.
We had 6 tour
I don't
buses.
think we got breakfast this year.
Do you have to
Breakfast was
pay
on
for
our
the
own,
excursion?
but still, I mean, a lot of people don't eat breakfast.
You don't have to pay for the excursions. You don't have to pay for those. They're included, but there may be a fee to get into some of the events. So I think the butterfly place was like $10, and then the state parks, we had to pay to get into the state parks.
You
So
should get in for free, you volunteer.
you're not volunteering for them. They're training you. All of your ATs, that's AT, Advanced Training State Meeting,
Is there a deadline for all these hours that you need?
45 days.
No, not too long.
Oh, for your class?
Yeah.
Yes, you have a year to complete your Master Naturalist.
Just a side bit, you can get into the state parks if you have a park pass.
Yes.
Day entry fees are free. You can get one for, I think it's $75
Yep.
a year, and that'll cover your day pass. And if you do want to go to that San Marcos thing and you don't want to pay for a hotel with that same pass, the first day of camping is at the regular price, the second day is half price. So if you look for a state park nearby, you can save some money that way, and then it is day entry fees into the state parks.
That
Yes.
99 state parks.
And there's lots of state parks over there. I can't name them all right now, but you can go look it up on the Texas Parks and Wildlife. And it's funner to camp, right? It'll be fall time when we have, it's in October every year, so it's good weather. Okay, if y'all have any questions, let me know. And then I will be in the back. I have a few of y'all that do not have accounts. And I'm gonna try to make sure I fix that stuff for y'all. And there's some of y'all that log things that are not in the right places, and I'm gonna fix that for you. And it's okay, because we're gonna make these mistakes, and it's a learning process, okay?
I'm only asking because I think maybe some other people might have the same question
Yeah.
about including travel time, which people have said
Okay.
over and over again, but I want to know the specifics, because let's say today, I, drove 45 minutes, but Lake Houston Wilderness Park is only 15 minutes from me.
Right.
So,
Today is not travel time for initial training, but let's say you came to the chapter meeting, okay? And you spent 15 minutes to get to the chapter meeting. The chapter meeting was 30 minutes, okay? So your chapter meeting is gonna be 0.75. You're gonna put that drive time in. But let's say you drove an hour to the chapter meeting. You can claim half of it. You can do 0.50 and 0.50, but you can't claim more travel time than the time you spent there. Does that make sense to everybody? So there's gonna be those questions that come up, and maybe I forgot something, because that happens. And then each time we'll talk about it. And I'm gonna try to come to as many meetings as possible, but I do have other groups that I volunteer for. So I'll come, and if you save any questions, or you want me to help you walk through something and fix it, I can do that for you. Or you can call me and I will help you fix it that way. And like I said, don't sweat it. It's not a big deal. It's easy to fix. And we want you to have fun. This is like a hobby thing. No. I always tell people, I grew up here, and across the way was the extension agent. That used to be ours. Mike Heimer was a chapter liaison for us. And he was my 4-H leader. So when I started, he was going out. But I kind of think this is like adult 4-H. And we'll give you a pen if you get your hours. So again, I'll be in the back. If you have any questions, let me know.
Thank you, Melissa.
You're welcome.
So we did have one person. So we did have one person volunteer to be what do we call the role? Class
Class representative.
Class representative. So Tom Philpott in the back, but he is willing if somebody wants to help out to kind of do it a little bit more by committee. So it looks like we have a couple of people here. So what we can do is we'll get your names up here on the whiteboard and y'all can kind of work out like how you want to handle it. Do you want me to talk about the agenda? or-
Yeah, before we move on, I wanted to show you guys something that helped me out a lot. So this is our calendar online. I always just Google Heartwood Master Naturalist, but Sharon was right with the tmn.org/Heartwood. TXMN, sorry. And then if you come in and click the calendar button, it will show this amazing calendar and it's color coded. So that's really helpful. Yellow are volunteer opportunities. You can go straight to chapter events, chapter meetings. But a very helpful thing when you're first starting is you can click into a lot of these and it'll tell you more about the opportunity, first of all, but also at the end, it gives you the VMS code.
Oh.
So for me in the beginning, because it's like so many acronyms, I would just click into these and figure it out from there. And if I didn't know, then I'd contact Melissa, who's very available for helping with this. But yeah, just, don't panic if that was a lot of information. The calendar has.
Put the VMS codes there so that, you would not have to think, gosh, what would I do?
Yeah, is it RN?
Occasionally they might be missing, but for the most part, they're there.
Yeah, for the most part, they are. So that, hopefully that helps you guys. That helped me a lot in the beginning. Okay.
Yeah, and it's funny, like, writing the time is important, and I think I almost, because I have to do this at work too, like in my real job, that I almost like try not to get think about it too much, but make sure you get it in there. And I think that the tip is like, kind of, I went ahead and on my phone, opened up a tab and made sure I had like even something put in a day to remind myself to log time. So one other thing we want to cover is this training class schedule. And that's on kind of, I think, the second page of your blue notebook. And within this, you'll see basically the different columns. So we have, the class numbers here in class 1. It lists the dates out and then the hours around start time. And the topics. So, one thing is it'll have the listing of all of the topics in here, and those tend to correspond to, typically chapters in your book. So the hope would be that you could read as much of that material as you can prior to actually, attending the class and lecture. Now, I know sometimes they're a bit of a, stretch to say get it all in, because some of them are, like 150 pages, and you may not have a lot of passion, but try to get the highlights as much as you can. And then additionally, there'll be a lot of like additional opportunities for reading. I'm a big time book nerd, so it tends to be anytime somebody says a book, I'm like, oh, I need that book. So I've got shelves, your books like that. I have shelves because every time I travel, I go to bookstores. I'm always buying stuff. So yeah, I have a bit of a problem in that space, but it's a good problem to have. So, kind of keep an eye out for that. Try to get as much of that reading material in as you can. And then, it's also list out the where component. So this is something that we have to pay really close attention to. The start times and the where, because there is a lot of variation in this space.
So where is Timberline? When I put it on the map, I get 2 different addresses.
Yeah, I Googled.
It's by Aldine Westfield. It's near Mercer. Timberline,
Cumberland Trail.
yeah.
It's listed on the back there, the address.
Oh.
1908.
Yeah, so I guess on that kind of back of that, it has the actual addresses for the. Yeah, luckily within the training group, there's people that are very organized, unlike me, so they know where all this stuff is. So that's one, we're hopefully, working with the mentors and other areas will help you kind of guide you around. So that's going to be something to just logistically, pay attention to. So that's a good thing we'll try to do each session is make sure you know where the next one is and the time. So yeah, Timberlane Utility District Community Center, and then that one will start at 8 a.m. And if anything other, like, kind of happens, like weather related, we'll try to get that communication out as effectively as we can. I don't know what format I'll take. But, also listed in there is, this the presenter as well as the curriculum that we'll have.
It says Zoom, will we get some notification for a link to each of these calls?
Yeah, I think the Zoom link will come out.
Yeah, we'll generally email the Zoom link, the day before, a day or two before, and I think it's going through your mentor.
Okay.
So you should have gotten it from your mentor for today's. If you didn't, let them know.
Yeah, so the week after the next, not next week we'll meet physically, but that following week, I think the lecture is via Zoom. Right? Yeah. Yeah, it's via Zoom, on the February the 17th, and then we'll actually meet to go out in the field, at noon. And we'll kind of, work through where specifically we'll make sure you know where to go, because there is a parking area. And that'll be a geology field day.
Oh, so on February 17th, they're zooming from home for that class, right?
That is correct.
Okay, all right. I guess I was thinking, I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
You were like gonna be here and watching the Zoom. Okay, so
Yeah.
they're gonna be at home zooming the field walks, all right. And then meet at Spring Creek. Gotcha.
Yes.
Okay, so one final thing to talk to you guys about, and then we will have y'all probably talk amongst yourselves about this. So yeah, hopefully we've gotten through most of the overview of your next few months as a master naturalist trainee. At the end of your class, we will be doing intern projects. So the last page of the manual covers intern projects. So these are volunteer. You are not required to complete these projects in order to certify. Our class was, and I think the year before did as well. These projects are intended to help you all get practice with direct outreach, and also to build up materials for the master naturalists to use in our direct outreach whenever we're going to speak at events. And it's also just an opportunity to get more volunteer time kind of on your own schedule. You can get up to, I think, 8 hours is what we agreed on last year. For working on these projects, either at home or when you're meeting with your group at Starbucks or here. So we will go over it a little bit. The idea is you and some partners, or you can do it by yourself, create an outreach table. So sometimes that includes a poster board, sometimes that includes flyers and pamphlets to hand out, but it's something that you could take to an event about a specific topic. We have a list of topics here: birds, bats, mammals, amphibians, and reptiles, native plants, soils, insects, spiders, pollinators, trees, and then finally, last but not least, Heartwood and the TMN program. So what we did, and this is kind of up to you guys, but what we did last year is we decided our groups pretty early on. And I'm gonna give you guys the opportunity to do that today, or you can just keep thinking about it. So if there's something in that list that you are really passionate about already, what we can do is kind of create little areas for you to, if you wanna do the bat group, you guys can come meet in one corner. So I think that works if everybody kind of has an area they're really passionate about, but if you don't, then we don't have to rush you. So do you guys wanna raise your hand if you want to go ahead and do those groups today? Yeah, okay, so we can do it next week. I know. We can do it next week. So just think about those topics, they're very fun.
No, it's a really low-key thing, we're not grading you, it's optional, you don't have to participate, with this project, but it's a great way to get more hours.
And to get to know some people.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun with my back group. So, I think that's the last thing I have to cover today.
So Melissa, did we put it on the schedule for 4.5 hours? Did they get declined 4.5 hours? Yes, you get declined 4.5 hours. And then we-
You're gonna go home and read that chapter.
Are there any questions before we leave about anything? We've still got all of our speakers here.
Today is 4.5 hours.
Today is 4.5 hours, yes.
Thanks.
Here's a question up here.
When we report our volunteer hours, do we start from this point forward or go back to January 1st?
January 1st, I think. Melissa,
Yes. Excuse me, what?
do volunteer hours count from January 1st for interns, or do they count from today on?
From today on.
From today on.
Some of you have a few things you did prior, and I'm helping a few people with that we can get them on. Many of you don't, some of you don't have, you're not in the system yet, which means your background check has not been ran. If you don't have a criminal background check that's passed yet, I can't let you volunteer. So there's only like 3 of you, it's no big deal. It takes about 2 weeks to get that background check back, and you're free to go. So that's the only hiccup I would have if you go out. I only have a few of you that are in the system. So once that happens, you're fine. From here on out, like I said, there's only a few that I have that have any prior, some stuff they did, and I'm taking care of that right now.
Okay, so if someone did an event last week, it doesn't count?
No, it counts, it's just, I have a few that they have to have.
Oh, so they can count it if they did something.
If you're already in the system, and a lot of you were in the system as of sometimes November. Some of you have been in the system waiting for this class to start since November, your background check is cleared. There's only a handful that I have not had the background check on. So if you volunteer and you're clear, you were vetted through the program, you can claim those hours.
Anything from January 1st on, right, once you're in the system?
You're not in the system right now, you can't claim it. Yeah.
Okay, great.
How do we go for one of those 3 people? I'm going to go.
You can check with her right now. Yeah, you can check with me now. And I'll let you know.
Okay. I think we are good. We will see you guys next time at Timberland. Thank you all.
Thank you.